Iran war. We'll go around real quick and allow everybody to introduce themselves before we get into the debate. So we'll go from just top to bottom, left to right. So Ryan, if you want to start.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me on. My name's Ryan Mullally. I'm the host of Natural Law with Ryan Mullally, and former teacher, current lawyer, and I've litigated at every level of the U.S. legal system, up to and including the U.S. Supreme Court. And as it says on underneath my name, I'm an American hegemony enjoyer and a big believer in the U.S. exerting pressure, including military pressure, to make the lives of American citizens better and to make the world a better place. So I'll be giving that perspective tonight.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. And then Jolah.
Yeah, I'm Jolah. My channel is called Jolah Politics. Currently, it changes sometimes. I'm pretty inconsistent on YouTube, but I do have a live stream on YouTube Shorts where I take call-in debates with Trump voters or people from the further left, or just strategy conversations with people from the center left. So check me out, Jolah Politics on YouTube. Feel free to call in to my show. I have experience in public policy. I have a master's. I really don't care about the degree. People have degrees and are dumb. People don't have degrees and are smart. I really don't care. But yeah, thank you for having me, Tom.
Awesome. Admiral Gibbs.
Howdy, I'm Admiral Gibbs. I'm here because I'm the best about foreign policy, and I'm basically a stable genius, as all y'all know. Yeah, I'm here basically to tell y'all why Iran should be taking more country ass whippings, and it's basically because America first. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And then counterpoints.
Yeah, hi, my name's Connor. I run a few YouTube channels. One of them is Counterpoints 40K, where I do science fiction breakdowns. Another one is Counterpoints Politics, where I do break down political topics. I do think that, listen, man, I am one of the biggest neoconservative hawks on the planet. I truly think that it is America's mission to liberate the free peoples of the planet. And yet, I feel like we're in a runaway imperial program that could be based. We can debate the based parts of it, but without the consent of Congress or without like the will of the American people, it seems wildly foolhardy and kind of fucking stupid. And so while I love liberating the people of the planet, I think Trump and Trumpers have a lot to account for. So I'll leave the rest for the open.
Awesome. All right. So the beginning of this war, I guess going into it, Donald Trump initially started saying that they were bombing Iran because they wanted to take out enriched uranium, because they were enriching uranium up to 60%. And then eventually, once we actually went to war, we got different reasons, including what it was that Marco Rubio said about Israel.
Pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that.
We've got a number of different reasons since then. So I wanted to hear from you guys what it is that you think the reason for the war is and what you think the goals are. What is it that Trump and his administration are trying to achieve? And what is it that we have to accomplish in order to get out of Iran or to stop engaging with Iran? So Jolah, I'll go to you first. What do you think we're doing in Iran? Why do you think we're there?
Currently, there's a few different reasons we're in Iran. One is because Trump is a weak baby bitch and will listen to, whatever strong person comes into the room and says, you need to do this or you should do this. He's kind of bored all the time. So he thinks it's fun to do war games, to bomb, Venezuela, to go after Cuba. He's talking about going there next. He wants to bomb cartels. He wants to play a war game. So for Trump, he's just bored. And the people around him they know he's a gullible idiot. Who they can just give a bunch of pleasantries towards and give gifts and flatter him, and he'll listen to them. And I'm sure Netanyahu has done that. Netanyahu tried getting Bush to do this, tried getting Obama to do this, tried getting Biden to do this. And the way that Trump is finally doing it with Netanyahu's guidance is probably the dumbest thing I've possibly, I've seen. In 4 weeks, we've depleted 850 Tomahawk missiles. That's like, I think, 20% of our total supply in America. We only make around 600 to 1,000 per year. Our interceptor capacity is also dwindling globally. We're moving supplies from Ukraine, from Korea, from the Pacific to the Gulf states and surrounding areas to fight against $50,000 drones. And Iran looks like the country that has all the cards here. America can bomb a bunch of stuff. We're bragging about how many people we kill, how many things we blow up. We also blew stuff up in Vietnam. We could blow stuff up anywhere. We're America. We know that. But when it comes to the actual strategy and strategic positioning, there is little to nothing there. So the reason why we're there, I definitely want to hear some more opinions. I think it is mostly dumb. I think many politicians have fun with this. And yeah, there are influences. Russia's benefiting, Israel's benefiting, and Iran's benefiting right now from America's dumb actions.
Ryan, why do you think we're there?
Wow. Well, those of us who have a memory slightly longer than a goldfish might recall that since 1979, we've had casus belli, meaning just cause for war, against Iran every second of every minute of every day, because since they became a nation in 1979, they have kidnapped, murdered, and maimed thousands of Americans in multiple actions spanning the globe, spanning multiple conflicts. And that's not even discussing their proxy funding of terrorism. The United Kingdom indicated that it foiled 20 terrorist plots funded by Iran in the last year, in the last 12 months. We just had a guy convicted in New York in federal court because he was sent by Iran to organize an assassination attempt on the president. This is a nation that we have been in a shadow conflict or Cold War, not even that cold, really. Shadow conflict's a better term, for decades. Now, as to this specific moment, a few things happened. One, Israel was going to go in, as the clip showed, which gave us a strategic opportunity. And it was a strategic opportunity that President Trump took advantage of, which is good because it saved American lives. Second, in negotiations, the U.S. said we would give them free uranium. We would give them free uranium for their civilian nuclear program, for energy generation, for medical use, this sort of thing. If they would promise never to enrich, never get to weapons capacity, certainly, but not enrich at all, and also to stop funding terrorism, to stop funding Hamas, the Houthi pirates, Hezbollah. Their answer? Absolutely not. And in fact, they already have enough uranium for 11 nuclear weapons. Now, what happened during the conflict? And this is important. They just launched a missile with a 4,000 kilometer range when they hit Diego Garcia. That could hit Europe. That missile has a range to hit Europe. By the way, they've been swearing for years that they're not developing such weapons, just like they swore for years that they weren't trying to get a nuclear weapons program online. They cannot be trusted, and they cannot be trusted to ever have a nuclear weapon, ever. It can never be allowed. It is a danger to every living soul on the planet. So, and then economically, this is a blow against China. This is a blow against China's attempts to undermine the petrodollar. But I'm going long-winded, so I'll stop. But to just put it mildly, we had humanitarian reasons, geopolitical reasons, economic reasons, any reason you could name to go after this country, and thank God we did.
Counterpoints, what do you think?
Can you, just because Ryan did hit a lot of topics, can you restate the question real quickly?
Yeah, I was asking why you think we're in Iran. What do you think the goal is? What do you think we're trying to achieve there?
Securing the world's energy supply. That's my firm and final answer. Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. What all the things that Ryan just said are in service of securing the world's energy supply. It doesn't matter if we had a reason for war, they had a reason for war, doesn't fucking matter. Decapitating Venezuela, Iraq war, the war in Iran right now. It's all about that shit.
Well, you were in the military, right? Were you ever deployed?
Yes. And I served from 2006 to 2010. I was in Iraq in 07 and 08.
And so did you feel like that was also over energy?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you actually look at it, Osama bin Laden, who we took the fight to in Afghanistan, he cited our friendly relationship with Saudi Arabia and our interventions in Lebanon on behalf of Israel as his reasons for doing the 9/11/2001 terrorist attacks. And so I just see this as a further extension. When you look, it's effectively like there's 4 ideologies on the planet: Islamic theocracy, mixed economy capitalism, and liberal democracy mixed together, fascism and communism. Islamic theocracy is just another thing that we're competing with. And we have to make friends who are Islamic theocrats, who are willing to give us oil. And we have to kill Islamic theocrats who are unwilling to give us oil.
Why, when you went and fought, did you think it was about oil, or did you think later?
Oh yeah, man. You can go watch. There's like clips from Friends in like 1996. That's like G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe going to fight for America's oil interests in the Middle East and North Africa. We've relatively known that our international conflicts have been about energy for decades, easily.
Okay. And then Gibbs, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the petrodollar thing. I also want to include that this is a part of a larger global strategic realignment against, I guess it was BRICS. Now it's SYNC. It's got basically, we've taken out, God, I can't even talk today. Fuck, what's the country?
Venezuela.
Venezuela. Thank you, Jesus. We took out Maduro, the oil, gone. We're sitting there threatening Cuba. They're scared of shit. Iran, hey, listen, I drew this cool graph over here. As you can see, we have fuck around and find out. They've been fucking around for years. Now, the other thing is they've been taking ass whippings, right? And my stocks have been doing this, shooting through the moon. This is because it's part of a global strategy to get rid of the people that don't want the petrodollar, as well as bring manufacturing back to the United States. In Arizona, they just took the Shahed missile, and I think they're calling them American Eagles, based ass name, and they're sitting here revamp them, and now they're remaking them a little bit more pricey than they are, but way cheaper than anything we have, and we're using our own suicide drones against them, but better, because America, fuck yeah. They fucked around, they're finding out, it's fantastic. We also we're building a new USO facility down here in the Gulf Coast. It's going to provide millions and millions of dollars of revenue, potentially billions of revenue here in the great state of Texas, and jobs. All of this is great. We're bringing oil away, the oil petrodollar to all these countries, whether they want it or not. Fuck them. America is the superpower. We got 11 fucking super carriers. They can taste this dick and they can like it. It's about time that these countries owned up to the fact that there are little bitches and they exist only because we allow them to. And it's wonderful that these guys who chanted death to America and have supplied these terrorists with money across the Middle East and all over the world are taking this whooping. They're evil people. They kill the gays. So if you're on the left, you're for Iran, well, you're just in favor of genocide. And guess what? They also stone women. Hey, do you like women? I like women. I love them a lot. Bad ones taste better. And that's really all I have to say.
Were you not critical of the Bush administration for going to Afghanistan?
Fuck no, let's take them over too and keep that country. We should have been there 100 years, like John McCain said, and annex that bitch. But no, nobody had the stomach for it. I think CounterPoints may have said that the American people didn't have it. I know it's because we've all turned into liberal limp dick sissies, and I'm tired of it. It's time to be Giga Chat Americans again and start conquering shit. Manifest Destiny 2.0, Don Rowe Doctrine, all that good jazz. We're back, baby.
So, Ryan, what about what Jolah said? Jolah was saying that he doesn't like that Israel has as much of an influence over Donald Trump and our geopolitical engagements. Why?
Let me clarify, though. Let me clarify first, because I don't care about Israel. I care that Trump is a cuck to every country that offers him money through Bitcoin and any leader that gives him a sucky suck. Whether it's Zoran Mamdani, whether it's Netanyahu, whether it's Putin. Like whenever Trump talks to Putin, he's like, Putin just called me and said he's not going to bomb any more Ukrainian civilians after Putin bombs another passenger train in Ukraine. So that's what I care about when it comes to our projection of power. Is our president is a weak bitch, diva, drama queen who needs his ego sucked off, and he follows whoever's going to suck off his ego. He doesn't know what the hell's going on right now. Do you think Trump knows that we used like 50% of our interceptor capacity in the first like 2 weeks of the Iranian conflict? Like, how much of our stockpile should we run down of our Tomahawks and interceptors? We are just giving China a bunch of data on how to avoid our interceptors right now from our faulty planning. You have to actually contest with those facts instead of just getting very loud and get very emotional like you guys are and talk about 1970 whatever. I don't care about that right now for our strategy. How many American lives, how many billions of dollars per day, how many interceptors, how many tomahawks do you want to waste and throw into the damn ocean for little to no strategic objective? You want to piss off Europe even more? We want to separate from Europe, go more towards, support Russia getting billions in a sanction relief. We just gave Iran a $14 billion windfall as well on oil. Where is the strategy here on any of this? And why is Trump such a weak cuck?
Okay, so Ryan, what is your response to Trump being such a weak cuck?
That was more a rant than a clarification, but it's just not a rant that anyone should take seriously.
Respond to one point. Respond to one point I made. Respond to a singular point I made.
Tom, are you moderating this or not? Because if we're going blood sports, I'll go.
Make him respond to one point I made. Just
I've been trying.
I wanted to hear on. I guess his main point was about whether or not. Whether or not.
No, and Tom, I'm going to get there, but I'm trying to be respectful to you in the format of your show. If you want me to go blood sports, then I'll just go blood sports, and that's fine. I've been not doing it, so I sat in silence and let him.
Okay, answer the question, sweetheart. Answer the question. Answer the question.
Yeah.
So moderating, yes or no?
Yes, I'm.
Okay,
I'm moderating.
Awesome. So shut up, Joel. If you listen to the points he made, you can just hear the partisan venom dripping off of them. But it's obvious in the inherent contradictions. He cites that he's upset about the way that Trump has handled Ukraine, but then who's ostensibly an American ally, but then criticizes Trump for aiding Israel, an American ally. This is not a coherent position that needs to be taken seriously. He said, and I think I'll do a direct quote, that he doesn't care that Iran has been killing, maiming, and kidnapping Americans in the thousands for decades. That might not be a thing that he cares about. It is a thing that the rest of us should care about. And we should care about it because if they get a nuclear weapon, they are going to use it. They are going to use it. They have developed a 4,000 kilometer range missile that can hit Europe. They lied about it. Why? Because they're going to use it. And furthermore, I agree with Connor. I agree with Gibbs that there is an oil issue here. It's more the petrodollar than it is the actual oil supply. But we should be honest about that because you know what happens if the petrodollar falls? Mass inflation, people starving, the financial markets crashing, Americans suffering. That's what's at stake. Now, people might not give a shit about that because it gives them open season to poke fun at Trump. But there's a million valid strategic reasons to do this. You just have to open your eyes and look at them.
I would like to respond.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shouldn't we have had a fucking conversation about this? Like, I'm really not trying to be rude. I understand that there's people, and I'm really not trying to be mean, I promise. But there's people like Gibbs who will like flip from no new wars to fuck yeah, America needs to be the global police because Donald Trump says so. But the truth is, like, at least a portion of the American Republic is not that retarded. And I remember that, like, leading up to the Iraq war, we had like 2 years of vigorous debate about weapons of mass destruction, geopolitical concerns, evidence, intel connections, Al-Qaeda connections. We had a debate for 2 years. And I don't remember a fucking debate. I remember we went into Iran like we were having like a normal Tuesday. And then we went into Iran on Wednesday. That's what the fuck I remember. So I don't remember consenting to this war. I don't remember consenting to $5 a gallon. I don't remember consenting to any of this shit as a citizen who votes in a democratic republic.
Gibbs?
Yeah, I mean, that's ludicrous. If you've ever watched any of my content, I've been calling for country ass whoopings since day one. So let's do a consistency check. And I don't think we need to go through fucking 16 million hours of content where I've said that. But hey, bad faith is off to a good start here today. I see. I mean, listen, these people are evil. And I'm sick of it. They also bombed Trump or tried to kill Trump or whatever, allegedly. And I don't know if you know anything about Trump, but he's the most petty individual alive. I knew that he was going to go attack them at some point. Also, we've been planning on taking them out since the Iraq War I. And then, Iraq War II came along and Bush and Rumsfeld, they all wanted to take him out. Honestly, Bush looks justified and vindicated now. Listen, ISIS was bad. Oh no, but they're gone now. But guess what? Libya, Syria, and Iraq were forming a little group together, going to form a super country. And guess what? Libya, Syria, and Iraq, the Ba'ath Party, they're gone now. Look it up if you don't believe me. This was their plan. That's why they did 3 stars in their thing. They're gone. Syria is basically a hellhole, which is good for us. A lot of smaller groups is better than one big group. Hezbollah is the weakest it's ever been. Hamas is basically wiped. Iran is on their last legs. Their missiles they're firing are going down every day. Strait of Hormuz. Oh no, oil prices are higher. Guess what? You know what will cause oil prices to go way lower over time is going to be if Iran doesn't fucking exist as an evil entity anymore, and we've bombed the shit out of all the resources along the Strait of Hormuz. Oh, Karg Island, that we talked about the goals for this. He said in 86, I can find the interview, or 88, I believe. He said in an interview, Trump did, hey, if Iran ever fucked with me and I was the president, I would just go take Karg Island. These are his quotes. So when y'all act like he's not consistent, hey, maybe fucking read a book, you jackasses, and you can understand what he's going to do. Because unlike what y'all say, he actually tells us what he's going to do all the time. Y'all just aren't intelligent enough to read a book and know this. But hey, that's fine. I'm a retard, not the guy who can't read.
So Donald Trump
I'm just going to say
that there was no new wars, right?
I'm just going to say that. I told Tom. Admiral Gibbs and I are oil and water. I don't enjoy speaking to him. I was going to be not sober tonight. And
you don't say, Connor.
The mere fact that we are pretending that MAGA is going from no new wars to fuck yeah, let's like annihilate Karg Island. It's so absurd that I don't want to spend the blood pressure, the cortisol necessary in order to try to explain how fucking stupid it is for the past 2 years to have Trump and JD Vance promise to be isolationist pacifists and then them to launch a unilateral war in the Middle East and North Africa whose scale is already comparable to the openings of the Iraq invasion. It's so stupid on its fucking face that this is not how I want to spend my time. So, Tom, I love you. I want to be a part of the panel scene. I want to debate. I trust, like seriously, I'm serious. I love the panel scene. I love Twitch and YouTube politics. But fuck that. And I'm not even going to entertain it.
Well, hey, let me ask you a question. Did he say this in 1988 or no? Yes or no? If I pull up a video and he says it,
no,
did he say this, yes or no? Yes or no?
1988.
In 1988.
So he said he's been
what
saying
did
it
he
for decades.
say in
Correct?
2024?
Did he say this in 1988? If he became president, then Iran acted out. The first thing he would do would take Karg Island.
What did he say in 2024?
Okay, so we're gonna be bad faith, and you're gonna act because y'all are gonna keep quoting.
Yeah, that's not bad faith. You're retarded,
bad faith.
and this is why I don't want to talk to you.
You can keep saying this once again.
Tom,
I'm the one who's read all those books.
Looking forward to the next one, but fuck Gibbs and fuck his 180 bullshit.
Okay, I mean it's not 180. Once again, I've been consistent the whole time, and this is once again I want to point this out. Look, guys, that's Paul Poseidon. This is what we call bad faith in debate. When I bring up a point and I say, hey, he said something, and I can provide the literal video of him saying this, and this is something he said for decades he would do, and then they go, oh, it's a 180. What's more consistent? The guy who said he was going to do something for decades and then actually goes in there and looks at ass, or hey, a campaign promise where he's like, hey, no new wars if possible kind of thing. Obviously, the one that's been said for decades is more consistent. But hey, enjoy being a pussy, bitch, and also stop being a Nazi.
It wasn't just Trump. It was something that Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, when they campaigned for Trump, they said that if a vote for Trump was a vote against going to war, that if Trump was voted in, there would be no new wars. Trump
did they say new wars or forever wars?
Once in a while.
Did they say new wars or forever wars? Most people were pretty careful about saying forever wars. And the reason most people were, and by the way, I'm not saying you're wrong, Tom. I'm not familiar with the quotes you're saying. It's totally possible you're right and I'm wrong. But a lot of the times it was it was forever wars, not new wars. And the obvious reason is, one of the other things that Trump was saying was peace through strength. Strength actually does require that you are willing to and have a reputation for using your military. Right? Like you don't carry a big stick if nobody believes you. And part of the problem that we had is that, especially with in the Obama era when Russia invaded Crimea and we our response was very lackluster. And then, the red line in Syria, our response was very lackluster. Then the pullout in Afghanistan, which was pretty much a disaster, we kind of lost our reputation for being the bully on the block. And if you want to have peace through strength, you have to have a reputation for being the bully on the block. So I wasn't surprised by it, I guess is my long way of saying, but also I'm not like a no new wars guy, and I'm not exactly like a MAGA guy. So I'm not the person who was, if someone felt betrayed by that, it wouldn't have been me. So that's not, it's not something that I've been deeply concerned about.
Well,
Yeah,
we
I
could
would
take
just-
a second and allow them to speak.
I am the candidate of peace. I am peace. People don't believe that. I am peace.
A vote for Donald Trump is a vote for a man who wants to end wars, not start them.
We do not want war with Iran. We actually want peace. The Iranians are clearly not very good at war. Perhaps they should follow President Trump's lead and give peace a chance.
Kamala's campaigning with warmongers like Liz Cheney. How do you think that is? She picks Liz Cheney, whose father virtually destroyed the Middle East. Liz Cheney, she talks big, oh, I want war. She always wants war. Every time I was with her in the White House, we should attack this nation, that nation, nations that people never even heard of, we should attack. She's a big tough guy. She sits back in Washington, oh, we ought to go and attack Iran, Iraq. We're going to attack everybody. That's why I broke up with her. All she wanted to do is go to war with everybody. These war hawks, they want to draft your kids to die in wars, and they will never fight themselves. We'll stay around the country for 15 years, just bomb the hell out of everybody, make everybody miserable. Nobody knows why we're there, the wars that never end. These endless wars that we've been in, I've gotten us out of so many. We don't want to get into wars. We're tired of fighting. I'm the only president in the last 84 years that didn't start a war. Under Trump, we will have no more wars, no more wars, no more wars. We will have prosperity and peace. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Remember, I'm the president of peace. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. He's going to start a war. I said, no, no, no. My rhetoric is going to keep us out of wars. And that's what happened.
I would like to respond to that. I think that this is important. One, I'm going to read the quote from 1988. I think it's important. Donald Trump on how to handle Iran. I'd be harsh on Iran. They've been beating us psychologically, making us look like a bunch of fools. One bullet shot of our men or ships, and I'd do a number of Card Island, and I'd go in and take it. This is the Guardian 1988. Now, if you watch this video, this is a drastic misunderstanding that the left does. And I think it's because they all like dick tuckers, and they don't understand what peace through strength means, right? And so when he's saying he doesn't want to have no new wars, it means he's trying to prevent them by carrying a big stick. But it doesn't mean he's going to be a bitch. When he says, oh, Iran's causing all these problems, it's like, oh, I'm going to go in there and beat their ass so bad that nobody's ever going to want to fucking fight us again. That's kind of what he's saying. And we see J.D. Vance say the same thing. He goes, oh, man, if I was Iran, I would listen to all these people that say they want peace because they're not very good at war. And they're demonstrating that now. They decided to fuck around, and now they're finding out. It's really that simple. So this is a bad mischaracterization. Can't even talk today. Don't do 39-hour streams, guys. You're not going to be able to talk the next day. It was a bad mischaracterization, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say, of what he is, what he's said is bad faith and is dishonest by the Dems. But hey, I understand it. We have to get our talking points in and get our dunks. But if you're
no one gave a talking point. No one gave it. No one gave a talking point. Tom showed the video. You were supposed to respond to the video. Can you respond to what Trump says? When he said no new wars.
Were you listening?
He meant we were doing more wars.
I just responded.
No, but you're saying that he meant we needed more wars to get to safety. That's so we did need new wars.
So did you not understand what I just said, or you just
carry a big stick? To carry a big stick, right? So what does carrying a big stick mean? Is this Iran war a new war? Is this a new war?
Yeah, it's a new war, I guess.
Okay, so when Trump said no new wars, he actually did start a new war. But you're saying it's okay that he did because he meant something else other than what he said a million times.
All right, I'm going to try to engage you in good faith because I know that's hard for y'all, but I'm going to try. Okay, if you have
stop
a bully,
being a bitch. Okay, just talk to me like an adult. Talk to me like an adult. Okay, good. Okay.
Listen, it's fine. It's okay.
I'm not name calling.
So, if there is a bully in your neighborhood and he's beating people up and he's always going to keep beating people up, and I go over there and I'm saying I've got 50 years of MMA training and I'm fucking roided out, and you say, hey, can you beat this guy up and tell him if he beats anybody else up, that's going to be a problem. And I go over there, whoop his ass, and he stops beating people up. Is that more? Is that going to cause more or less fights?
Well, I see the big issue, though. I'm talking about Tomahawk missile supply. I'm talking about interceptor supply. I'm talking about Americans dead. I'm talking about our military being overextended. And you think that it's a game on a playground. You think it's a bully on a playground. That's why people voted for Trump, because people like you convinced them to think like little kids and think emotionally. That's not how it works right now. China and Russia are getting us into a trap right now. We're relieving Russia economically. We're relieving Iran economically. We are hurting our allies in the Gulf states. We're hurting our allies in Europe. We are only helping China and Russia, BRICS nations. We are hurting our ability as a currency to function globally as well. Okay, when Trump does all this stuff, he gets paid off by China and Russia and all these different countries. They are benefiting directly from what we are doing with Iran. I'm talking about Tomahawk missiles. You're talking about playgrounds.
So Jolah, you would what would it take for you to think that, like, okay, let me grant you. Let's say, and I don't think it's as clear as the clip made it look, but let's say that Trump made an iron promise. He said, I swear, no new wars, put my hand on the Bible, no new wars, right? But he is still the president. How close to a nuke would Iran have to get before you would be okay saying, you know what, we should do something about that? How many Iranian citizens do they need to butcher in the streets before we do something about that? Like, what is your criteria, Jolah, for when it is warranted to actually use American military force and, yes, risk American lives to do something that needs doing?
Donald Trump said, did he not, that we obliterated their nuclear capability a year ago, right?
Are you going to answer the question? How about this? I'll grant you that he was lying about that.
Okay, he lied about that. Okay.
No. I'm granting it. I'm not saying it's true. I'm granting it. The reason I'm granting it is it doesn't fucking matter. Let's say he lied about it, and now they are going to have a nuke. Should we go in?
If we thought that Iran was going to have a nuke tomorrow, then I would consider escalating. Okay, I would consider that. But when it comes to escalating, yeah, I would consider it. I would always put diplomacy first. And even Trump himself wants diplomacy. He wants a deal. He wants a better deal than Obama got, but he still wants a deal. I would always put diplomacy first, especially because military action does not guarantee they never get a nuke. It does not guarantee it. But what we can do is have more interconnected multilateral agreements like Obama tried doing, and Israel hated that deal Obama did. So Obama actually kind of defied Israel.
Everyone hated that deal Obama did.
No, only Israel hated it. Only Israel hated it. No. Europe was happy with it. Other countries were happy with it. Only Israel hated it.
Are you fond of the missiles that Iran is raining down on its neighbors? Are you fond of the landmines they're putting in the Straits of Hormuz? Are you fond of Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthi pirates? Are these things you're fond of?
No, I'm saying this is a very dumb. This is a dumb, pointless, illegal thing to do.
Things that you are fond of. Perhaps you should grapple with the fact that those are the things Iran bought with the money that we got, that Obama gave them. So yes, when you
Trump just gave Iran relief on sanctions, they got $14 billion windfall, right? Iran's making more.
$100 billion that they use expressly to fund asymmetric deterrence, which includes missiles, naval ships, naval mines, and terrorism, then yeah, they get to use those when we go to war with them later. That deal made the problem worse because it put off something that needed doing then. But thank God we're doing something about it now. And again, I go back to my opening. We offered them, before the war started, we offered them free uranium for civilian use. Free.
We killed all of their negotiators. We killed their negotiators multiple times. Israel and America killed their negotiators. In the process of negotiating, we lured them in with negotiations and we killed their negotiators each time. That's why they won't talk to Trump anymore.
But before we killed their negotiators, we had talks and we offered them free uranium for civilian use. They turned it down. They said they would not give up enrichment. They said they needed to go. They were going to go beyond 60%. Why?
The reason why they won't give up all of their capacity to enrich is because they see what happens to countries like Ukraine. They see what happens to countries like North Korea, which is nothing. We don't go near North Korea. We don't touch North Korea. We don't bomb North Korea. Now, when it comes to Ukraine, Russia will go and bomb Ukraine. Ukraine gave up their nukes, and Trump questions every day if we should be supporting them. Iran's not going to ever give up all their capacity because that would mean that we would just take over the entire country. So from their own perspective, from their negotiations, they would not give up all capacity to enrich. But our intelligence intelligence
so you
confirmed.
grant that their
and we just had
capacity is
Joe
that they
Kemp.
would
We
like
just
a
had
nuke.
Joe Kemp resign. We had Joe Kemp resign, which I don't like Joe Kemp, but we had multiple intelligence sources. The only intel that told us that Iran was anywhere close to getting a nuke was Donald Trump and Israeli intel. American intelligence never confirmed that whatsoever. All American intelligence, all intelligence with our European allies confirmed Iran was following the nuclear deal. They all confirmed Iran was not close to getting a nuke when we bombed them in Midnight Hammer, and they're not close right now. And what we're doing right now is separating us from our allies even further. We're making Iran more radical. A country of 90 million people will not just disappear. These are the facts. We're draining our munitions. We're draining our missiles. We're draining our Tomahawks. We're draining our interceptors. We don't know what's going to happen here, and we don't know how bad it's going to be. I know nothing good is going to come from it. I don't know if it's going to be the level of Iraq. It depends how far Trump goes into it. But there's no theory here that makes sense for how this is going to be. Even if you're pro-bombing Iran,
you've been talking
this
for like
operation,
a million.
even if you're pro-bombing
Jolah,
Iran,
you're saying that like no other countries believed that we were that they were building a bomb, but the IAEA was pretty clear that they were enriching uranium up to 60%. Now, Donald Trump did say that he obliterated it in June, though other intel said that they had moved it before that was the case. And then
imminent threat. So within weeks, imminent threat within weeks. There was no imminent threat within weeks. No, that was never confirmed.
That's what I was about to say. Is that when he's asking you, like, hey, even if Trump said no new port, obviously that doesn't mean that if there's an imminent threat that he wouldn't do something about that.
But American intelligence said there was not an imminent
Tom,
threat.
I understand why Jolah needs to do a lengthy
Well,
filibuster.
I wanted to ask
no, Tom, this is actually important because the disastrous part of his answer, which he then just kept on going to run away from, is that after I asked him point blank, he admitted that Iran wants a nuclear weapon. He admitted that it is in Iran's interest to get
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said.
And
that's not what I said.
You've been talking for
that's
like 100 years. You're gonna have to let me talk.
Well, no, yeah. What I mean?
So if Iran wants a nuclear weapon for deterrence and is trying to get a nuclear weapon for deterrence, and
no, they are not. I never said that. You're responding to a point I did not make.
They told us.
I did not make that point. I did not say that.
The same promises they made that they were not enriching to weapons grade level. They also promised they were not developing missiles that could reach thousands of miles away and hit Europe. But guess what? They just fired one. So the idea that we're going to wait until eminence, whatever that is, rather than take a strategic opportunity when it presents us is insane. And the idea, and I hope the audience was tracking this, that you can lay out in one breath and say it is in Iran's interest to become a nuclear state to get the deterrence that North Korea benefits from, that Ukraine wishes they had because they gave back their nukes, that they have all these reasons to do the thing that they obviously are doing, and then say, oh, well, this is not worth solving. Iran is a terror state. Iran has been killing and maiming and kidnapping thousands of Americans for decades. They cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. They cannot.
Iran is a bad country. I hate Iran. Yes, good. Iran is bad. Iran bad. I never said they are developing nukes. There was no evidence they were imminently developing nuclear weapons. There was no evidence of that.
Eminence is doing a lot of work there, buddy. Eminence is doing a lot of work.
Yeah, if you trust Israeli intelligence over U.S. intelligence, move to a different country. If you don't trust U.S. intelligence, but all of our intelligence, all of European intelligence, did not say that Iran was close to getting a nuke or having imminent plans to get a nuclear weapon. Now, I did say they want to be able to have the capacity to enrich at some level, so there is some level of deterrence, but there's no evidence they moved to weapons grade. There's no evidence they did that. If we want to talk about, what we can do to deter Iran, or when Iran was negotiating with America over the past 10 years, we can talk about how there was no evidence that they were doing large violations of our nuclear agreements. But moving forward, how do you stop Iran from getting, if you say they make promises about different weapons, why would they make any promises if we pull out of the deal? The nuclear deal fell apart when America pulled out. If we're going to be bombing all of their negotiators, assassinating their generals, the people, they have internal politics as well. The people who gain power in Iran are going to be more hardline, are going to be more radical. And there's 90 million people in Iran, unless if you're planning on literally carpet bombing and killing 50 plus million people, that country's not going to be going anywhere. So what is the plan? And this is probably the better conversation now. How do you see this playing out? So you're seeing Trump bomb them. Israel and Trump, they kind of want to restrict Iran as much for energy. They want to see them kind of collapse on the inside, right? So after Iran collapsed, and they have 90 million people left over. What do you guys see as what comes after this Iranian regime?
I would answer that.
You said, sorry, this is going to be very short. This is just literally factual.
You're fine. You're fine. Go ahead.
Just factual correction. They've admitted that they were at the 60 to 65% enrichment range. This is not a linear process. Getting from like 0% enrichment to 3.5%, which is civilian use enrichment, is really, really, really hard. It takes a lot of tech. It takes a lot of work. 60% enrichment is actually 90% of the effort it takes to get to weapons grade. And they admitted they had enough 60% for 11 nukes. If you have functioning enrichment facilities, getting from 60 to 90 is about a week, 2 weeks, right? Is that like, so when people say it's not imminent, what they mean is, well, maybe they don't have the tech for the device yet, or maybe imminent means longer than 2-3 weeks. But like the idea that we're going to play games and say, well, they can get to 90% in a week or two. Let's wait the 5 days and see what happens. No, Israel had an opening. We took it. We should have. But sorry, Gibbs, I'm not going to rant because I was trying to correct a factual thing. All yours.
Yeah. Yeah, so I do what was the last thing? What's going to happen next? I think this is actually a very important question, and I brought up the three nation state kind of coalition that was forming under the Ba'ath Party, and I think it's important to keep looking at history, and this is why I said Bush is vindicated, because the Ba'ath Party no longer exists. Right, they're gone across 3 countries. They were a secular Muslim group power that was going to be taking over these countries, push it back, and they were kind of going to be a buffer against Iran and some of these other groups, and they're gone now when they turned against us. Okay, and this is important because what we look at is, okay, what came after it? Well, ISIS. And ISIS was really bad. I'm not going to pretend they weren't. They did a lot of terrible shit, but they're not nearly as strong as 3 different nation states teaming up to form a super country or a coalition with controlling African currency, controlling oil, and having a military power in the region. That's much weaker. And then what happened to ISIS? Well, ISIS is gone, and we have a new Syrian government that's weaker than both, really. And they don't even control all of Syria, et cetera, et cetera. Iraq is basically a proxy for us and Iran, and Iran's basically falling apart. So it's just like them and some militias. And Hezbollah is the weakest it's ever been. Israel's moving in on Hezbollah. And so when we're looking at what's going to come next, we have 2 options, really. And one of them is going to sound kind of bad, and it's going to sound callous. Best case is a regime arises that is friendly to the U.S. and anti the SINC nations, right? Okay, that would be optimum. I don't know if that's going to happen. But I don't know if that's going to happen, but sure. The next is balkanization, where we get like the Kurds take part of the region, the ethnic Persians and the Zoroastrians take a different area. I believe there's a Taliban group takes part of it. There's some other groups out there. And now this sounds bad, and it probably will cause some wars and maybe some initial friction and instability in the region. But that's not nearly the threat that Iran, which has major oil producing, major tech producing, all these major military hours and major connections all the region is, compared to 5, 6, 3, 4 different little micro states in the region. That's a lot weaker overall, and that's better for us. And so when you're sitting here saying, oh, yeah, Russia is getting a benefit right now from a short-term increase in oil, although they're losing tech access to Iran. The bigger issue is now China is also weaker than they've ever been. So Russia gets a small gain. North Korea gets a small gain. China goes way down. Iran ceases to function as a part of this. So we've taken out and pulling out the threads of this BRICS or SINC, however you want to say, nation state alliance that's against us. And I really got to say, even in the worst case scenario, America wins because we're an empire. And empires fight proxy wars to weaken other groups. That's how it's been throughout history. And I'm sorry the Iranian people have to deal with this, but maybe you shouldn't have elected theocratic, terrorist, crazy people and put them in charge.
It seemed, Gibbs, earlier you were arguing that the war is about oil, whereas it seems as though Ryan believes that this is about like a threat from them.
It's about both.
Yeah.
I agree with Gibbs. It can be about more than one thing.
To going right now, is it about oil or is it about uranium?
I would say it's kind of the situation. It's both, and I don't want to cop out. I would say this is kind of a situation. I had an old professor. He would call it the pain now or the pain later. You either study now for the test or you have bad pain and pain later on your. If you don't study now for your test, you got pain later, as opposed to having pain now and having to study. Same thing here. If we don't do something now and cut out the cancer, it's going to get worse. We're going to let them sit there and build up their uranium, build dirty bombs, potentially sell them to terrorist groups, or give them to Hezbollah or Hamas or the Houthis, or give them an actual functional nuke. That's fucking terrifying. I mean, and that's actually a greater threat than to say, oh, hey, they slip a nuke in through the Mexican border that, you know, Biden had left open, and they set it off in here in San Antonio, military city. Boom! Oh, millions of people dead. Papa Gibbs is gone. You don't hear my rants no more. Sad time. That'd be really bad. You know, or if they close off oil, send oil prices, that's bad. But if we eliminate them, oil prices in the long term will go down, and it'll help the American petrodollar, and it'll hurt that alliance, as well as it eliminating the threat of uranium. I would say it's both, and I hope that's not a cop-out.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can have multiple strategic reasons for doing the same thing. It's not weird. Like, I think that, like,
sure, but I'm asking about the timing. Like, if we're going in now,
my understanding of the timing, if you were going to like put the pieces together, is that we have a geopolitical interest, as Gibbs was explaining, in breaking BRICS, in breaking China's attempts to decimate the petrodollar and replace it with the petro-yuan, which would have devastating effect on the American economy. So we had that reason for a long time. Then we went into negotiations, and during the negotiations, Iran said some pretty crazy stuff, as was reported, you know, by our negotiators in those meetings, and which I was talking about earlier. And at that point, Israel told us that, you know, as you put up the clip from Rubio, that they had intel, they had an operation capacity, they had a window where we could do something like take out 100 of the top leadership in one strike. So, you know, and then, you know, if you think about how these decisions are actually made, it's not like it's a podcast where people are like, what is the reason? And it's the only reason. I think there's all these things go into a matrix, and then this is presented to the president, and he authorizes it because, you know, there's all these strategic considerations that warrant it in favor. You know, some people even think that he had Tucker Carlson into the White House because everyone knows that Tucker's opposed to the war, and it sent a little bit of a false flag up. Who knows? The point that we don't have the intelligence briefings, none of us do. But in terms of the way that I've seen it reported, that would be the lead up, that we have backdrop strategic interests, and then we had an opportunity present itself.
Sure, I don't disagree that there's going to be more than one reason, but I'm wondering, what is it that it will take for us to get out of there? Like, what are we trying to achieve in order to stop engaging with Iran?
I have a question that could build on that, actually, for both of them. Mm-hmm. So, like, if Trump said tomorrow that he wants to move 100,000 troops into Iran, let's say he wants to seize the oil ports, so Kharg Island, let's say he wants to try and seize the Strait of Hormuz, that would probably result in, I don't know, a few thousand American casualties with that level of troops on the ground. Would you support a ground invasion of that capacity? It'd be like the same capacity as like Iraq. And it wouldn't be 100,000 at once, obviously, but would you support a ground occupation like that?
I would need to know why it was necessary. So far, it hasn't seemed like we were going to have to go anywhere near 100,000 troops. I'm not opposed to there being some troops there, but like 100,000 is a huge number. So I would actually need to hear more. Yeah,
well, what about like 10,000, 15,000? Yeah, like the Strait of Hormuz is the big thing. So the mines in the Strait of Hormuz, it has been really difficult for America, and also the drones as well. The drones and the mines in the Strait of Hormuz. That's why Iran has such a stranglehold on that area.
Yeah, if we were like, I don't know that there's a magic number. I don't know what the magic number would be, but like certainly I'm not like a no boots on the ground guy. I don't think that, like, I think that this is actually a fight worth having. And the real danger here is that we leave this undone. Like if we do this and then we have to come back and do it again in a year, that's really shitty. And it's like we've achieved air superiority. We've achieved massive decimation of their leadership and of their military capacity. You know, they have asymmetric deterrence that's still in place, but ultimately, like, we are obviously winning. So if you're obviously winning, you should finish the job and win. I hope we can do that without 100,000. That seems like an awfully big number, but I mean,
it's not that. I mean, think about the size of Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, you probably don't know those exact numbers, but like, let's say a population of like 40 or 50 million people versus 90 million people. The occupation, and it's a much more advanced military. I mean, when it comes to Iraq and the development of Iraq and Afghanistan, just in terms of how together they are as a coalition, like the IRC, the technology they have available to them, they have support from Russian intel, from Chinese intel, from their financing, from the equipment they get from Russia and China. So they have a lot more capacity than Iraq or Afghanistan had if they wanted to fight back against Americans occupying. But that's my main question. And if there's nukes there, if they might be getting nuclear weapons, and that's the biggest threat to humanity. I mean, at that point, you would probably say any number of troops that it takes would be necessary, right? Like any number that it takes.
Hold on. Fundamentally, that's actually fundamentally incorrect, what you just said. Iraq was the 4th largest military in the world at that time, with the most advanced air defense systems in the world, according to them and according to many others outside the U.S. You're fundamentally wrong with what you said. They also had alliances all over the world with, like I said, the Ba'ath Party countries that they controlled, 2 other countries. Iran doesn't have that. They have tangential allies. So when you say this, they also, we know Iraq used chemical weapons. They used them on us. They used them against the Kurds. They used them against Iran. We know this, just so you're fundamentally incorrect. Also, I want to point out another reason you keep mentioning over running out of missiles. Manufacturing in the U.S. is a good thing. I already brought that up in my opening. Big fan of that. War causes us to build more things. Hey, we get better tech. Look at Israel. They have 2 versions. They have one version of the F-35, which is better than ours. And we've taken it and re-engineered it and made better improvements to ours. We have another version of the F-15. They invented new tactics on how to use these in conjunction that we didn't have to do. And now we're implementing them to ours. So that's wonderful and good for us overall. And then you brought up all these other things. Yeah, you just fundamentally don't understand the foreign policy picture over there is what it seems like. And this is not really a bash, but it is confusing. And the reason why it's so confusing is because Iran works with the shadow fighting. They're very like asymmetrical warfare. They're not very good at fighting actual wars, as we're seeing now. They had all these drone strikes, all these missiles. Those have gone down. I think yesterday, the day before, they launched like 4 missiles and like 20 drones. Ooh, scary. Like, I mean, they're just getting ass whippings. And yeah, Ryan brought up a good point earlier about the Diego de Garcia attack. Yeah, they did have this capability, but it's kind of like the Great Value missile. It's right below an intercontinental missile, and it was shitty. And one fell in the ocean, and the other, I don't know, not so good. It's just they're just kind of like not good at this stuff. However, if we allow them to sit there and keep working on this, they will become good. And the problem is they're not rational actors. They just sit here and go, "Hey, we're getting attacked. You know what we're going to do? We're going to bomb everybody else in the region and make them hate us more." Like, they're lucky the Taliban is getting in a war right now, because if they weren't, the Taliban was talking about invading them, like because of the water stuff going on. Like they're just in a really bad position, and now is the time to take them out. You don't let evil people spend time and get stronger. You kick them while they're down, and you take them out. You cut off the head of the snake.
Okay, so earlier, like Donald Trump was initially saying that it was about them not enriching uranium. Then eventually it was talking about their leadership and wanting to eliminate their leadership. And then he's also talking about making sure the Strait of Hormuz is opened up. How long, is there a limit on how long you guys would accept this war to go on, to where even if you were under the impression, Ryan, that Trump was promising no forever wars, well, how long can this go on before you would consider him breaking his promise?
I don't want to pull a counterpoints or counterpoints, bro, but like if you're gonna like just saying that Iraq 2000s is compared to Iran 2026, like that is the most brain dead low IQ take you can possibly have, and you're gonna call me dumb for it. Like I don't know if I could talk. This is ableist. I don't know if I could keep on doing this. Like this is not cool. Like
you can say that,
but sanctions Iraq was under for all those different years. Do you know that the cash flow into Iraq compared to Iran now, the freaking the relationship of China and Russia supporting Iran? Like
that's where I was going.
Russia's a bitch. Russia can't even win a
Hold on, wait. That's
also,
that's where I'm going with my question, is because if we're talking about like no forever wars, right? And the people want to keep comparing it to Iraq and things like that. Obviously, Iraq is something that Donald Trump was very critical of, and like talked about how horrible the Bush administration was and how bad Obama was for allowing it to go on. There seems to be a line, right, for MAGA, even if you were under the impression that it wasn't no new wars, but no forever wars. Like, at what point is this too far?
Well, I would just like to respond, if you don't mind, just real quick, and then I'll turn it back to you, Tom, just because I was called ableist. Listen, I know we all hate AI, but I'm just going to read a quick AI thing because I think we can trust it on here. Iraq was commonly referred to as having the world's 4th largest army prior to 1991 Gulf War, with a massive army and potentially the 4th strongest again when we invaded back then, under Bush. Like, what is your What is your point?
I'm
Are you
not
just
talking about just number
you
of
ignoring
people.
history?
The,
Like,
the advanced technology and
whoa.
drones.
They
the
had,
advanced-
yeah.
Okay, just a lot of
So you're
people does
saying
not
it's
mean
not
you're a good
comparable?
military. Do you think people
okay.
in 2026, what do you think matters more, the advanced drone technology or the number of people they had?
What happened to
Do you think
all
Genghis
the
Khan
advanced
was as strong as the Romans? Like, you're comparing different empires, different times. It's
They did
comparable,
not have
bro.
advanced
Yeah,
anti-air systems compared to Iran.
Wait, hold on,
Oh shit, Sherlock!
Gibbs,
Neither did the
Gibbs,
Romans. Were the
Gibbs,
Romans one of the greatest empires of all time?
Gibbs,
This is fucking
Gibbs,
retarded. And you're
Gibbs,
gonna call me
give me-
ableist? Give me a break, bro.
No, it's ableist for me to talk to you. No, it's ableist for me to talk to you.
Because it's ableist for me. Yeah, because you're retarded, bro. Like,
Gibbs,
you
No,
literally
you don't.
argue
No, you don't
historical
understand what I'm
context.
saying. No, I'm
Gibbs,
saying you
Well,
are.
You don't understand historical context, bro.
Gibbs, this
You
is
don't
the-
understand historical context.
Gibbs, this is the simplest point.
Was Rome the strongest military on earth at its time?
Yeah,
Yes or no?
like,
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Rome.
Gibbs,
I
he's
brought
already
up Rome in the Iran
he's already
conversation.
dead, Gibbs. You don't.
I
need to
win.
keep
You're
giving
just being bad
Got
faith.
me.
Like, you act like why was
about
Rome able
Rome.
to conquer all these other countries? Well, no. Why was Rome able to conquer these other countries? Oh, well, it's because they were better militarily. They had better tactics, better tech, etc. Same thing. Why were we able to beat Iraq? Because we were better military, better tactics. They're still the fourth strongest, bro. At the time, unlike Iran, who's not the fourth strongest now, bro. It's not.
Wait,
that
are you saying
simple, bro.
Iraq was the fourth strongest military in the world in the early 2000s? Wait, you're saying Iraq was the fourth strongest military in the world? The fourth?
You made this argument. Oh, he's bringing up Rome. When you see
What was the ranking? Who was fifth?
Hold on. When we're talking about foreign policy and political acumen and all this kind of stuff, it's important to talk about context. When you go, oh, they don't have the advanced drone tech. Well, no shit. Neither did the Romans back in the day. Neither did any of these other countries. And you're going,
that's why it's more complicated now than it was for Iraq.
Oh, okay. Yeah, bro. It's not more complicated.
Yeah. No, because of the new technology that Iran has.
Yeah,
that's
newer technology too,
that's
bro.
the main thing. The drones are probably the biggest thing in modern warfare. That's the number one topic in modern warfare in every country globally is drone warfare. In Ukraine, Russia, like that is the number one topic of warfare. And you think it's not a point because of Rome. Okay,
hold on.
I need literally 10 seconds because this whole thing is idiotic. The highest technology that their military had were the anti-air systems that China installed that we fucking obliterated. So what are we talking about? Like we've already obliterated their we have total air dominance. So whatever technology Iran had is irrelevant because
why can't we move boats through the Strait of Hormuz though? Why can we not move boats through? Why can our navy not get within 1,000 kilometers of Iran right now?
Do you understand the difference between air and water, my guy?
What's the main issue with Iran that we need to tackle?
No, seriously. When I say
we can wipe out Iran in the place where it doesn't matter, but we can't attack their oil or their shipping lanes. We can't attack the Strait of Hormuz. What's the point?
Between air and water, is this? I'm not sure if this is not clear to you. I can spell it out.
Yeah, in this conversation, anti-air versus the water. Yes, the water is the big topic right now. Their biggest chip, their biggest card on the table is the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, their mines in the water and their drone warfare. Yeah, that's the number one thing right now that we're worried about economically.
92% of their navy.
All right, we should move our boats through that. Why can we not move American boats through?
Because that's where the 8% is, you idiot.
Like Argentina,
so how long will it take
to do this?
Okay, how long will it take then? Like how when are we going to be able to?
Well, that was yes, that was my question.
We don't have intelligence briefings.
But that was my question. It's like, how long do you think it's going to? At what point would you say that this is becoming a forever war? This is something that is like taking too long.
It depends on the goal, not the weeks. Like the criticism of the Iraq War that I think is the really fair criticism is that what we attempted to do was build a democracy. And I think we've learned that we are not particularly good at that. And even if we were good at that, it doesn't work. Like you can't build democracy for countries. So if for example, our stated goal was like boots on the ground until we can build a fair and just society in Iran, you're going to be there literally forever. And that's insane. I think that you measure the duration against the goal that you need to achieve. And I think Jolah was right about this. Like if the issue is nuclear terrorism, that justifies a lot more. If the issue was like economic, geopolitical, strategic, break bricks, etc., that wouldn't justify as much. If the issue is like build a democracy, because we know that doesn't work, that would justify even less. So it would depend
Sure,
what
but
your goal
the
was.
reason that I'm asking is because obviously with Iraq, like we were told that the goal was to stop them from having WMDs, right? Obviously that wasn't actually the case, and that the bigger criticism with Iraq was that we just didn't even know why we were there or what the goal was, and it turned into us just being there for a very long time to achieve who the fuck knows what. In this case, I feel like we're in a similar position where we don't know what the actual goal is. We don't know what it is that we're there to achieve. And so I would like, are we supposed to wipe out the entire leadership? Are we supposed to get a new deal that is like equivalent to the Iran deal from before? Like Trump said before that the whole goal is that they're not allowed to have a nuke. Then he said the whole goal is that they're not allowed to enrich uranium. Now he is back to saying that they're not allowed, that as long as they agree not to have a nuke, that they'll stop. Like, what do you believe the goal is? Right now?
I think right now the goal is to kill their leadership and replace them with different leadership and break their military capacity until we have enough leverage that somebody is going to show up and actually be willing to put together a deal that's worth having. If I don't know what we're going to get, I'm obviously none of us have these intelligence briefings, but were it me, I think the deal that Trump offered at the beginning is really, really fair and good. Like, you don't enrich uranium ever, and we will give you free civilian use for uranium. You want to use it for medicine, you want to use it for nuclear power plants, have at it. We will give you 3.5%, whatever it is the civilian limit is, and you can have it for free. And but you're not enriching anymore. That would be my non.
I just don't get how we don't trust them with like the Iran nuclear deal, but we trust that they'll give us all of their nuclear supply. Like, why would we ever trust after we bomb them and destroy their desalination plants and poison their water and all that kind of stuff? Like, why would we even after we bomb Iran, and it is possible we keep on bombing them and they never give up because they are fighting for their country. There is nationalism in Iran as well. There's a lot of hardliners who would not give up, no matter how much America bombs. Then we're going to run out of bombs possibly, or not be able to move forward with it any further. But like, even if we did bomb them to a point where they say, all right, no more uranium, how can we trust they don't get more capacity? Do you want to have inspectors like Obama's deal, and I don't know, just further like Obama's deal on steroids? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I'm looking for Obama's deal on steroids, but I'm also looking for a geopolitical choke where we're not funding them and we're cutting them off from the petro-yen, we're cutting them off from China, we're cutting them off from the flow of money, because what they've shown and what they did with the money from Obama's deal was invest in asymmetric military, and asymmetric military is a long-term problem. That was the main criticism of the Obama deal, the JCPOA, is that it stopped them. Even if you accept it on face value, it stopped them from being a nuclear power in the short term at the cost of ensuring they would be a nuclear power in the medium term, because it let them build up all the other parts of their military apparatus and terrorist apparatus with our money, while when the deal expired, they could just move forward, and it's harder for us to deal with them then. So yeah, I think we should put them in a position where it's harder for them to rebuild. One of the great things we've done in the conflict so far is, even though they still have weapons to fight with, we've taken out 80-90% of their manufacturing of weapons. We've taken out the base where they fabricate these things. That's really helpful, because then if we have a deal, we at least know we have a few years where they're going to have to rebuild their infrastructure. So yeah, I think we have to cripple them. We have to kill the hardliners until we get somebody that we think we can have a deal with, and then we're going to have to watch them very carefully, because they are an enemy nation, and if we let them arm themselves, they will kill us.
From my understanding, every deal that was offered was that they weren't allowed to enrich uranium whatsoever, that there was no enrichment of uranium, not even for civilian use.
No, the JCPOA allowed enrichment for civilian use.
No, for the JCPOA. I'm talking about the ones that Trump offered. They all said 0% enrichment.
Yeah.
It sounded like you were saying a minute ago that they would be allowed to, that they were offering them to enrich for civilian use.
No, we were offering to give them the uranium. Because if you don't let them enrich at all, the criticism they'll say is, well, we want to have nuclear power plants, or we want to have X-ray machines, we want to do isotope research in our hospitals. Civilian use is like 3.5% enrichment and below, and we offered to give them that for free. Rather than them enriching it themselves, we offered to give them the uranium for civilian use so that they wouldn't need an enrichment program. Because it is
okay that they would provide the nuclear fuel for them
Yeah, but they don't have an enrichment program, because one of the things that came up earlier, getting from like natural uranium to 3.5% is like really, really hard. But then you've got to get from 3.5 all the way to like 90 plus to be weapons grade. So the concern with having the enrichment facilities is when you have the enrichment facilities, you have the enrichment facilities. You can keep running it and you can keep refining it. If they don't have the enrichment facilities and we're actually giving them the civilian use uranium, it's a lot less threatening. It's not a perfect solution, but it's a lot less threatening than the alternative.
And what you're bringing up, Tom, before Trump started the all-out war with Iran at the end of February, there were a bunch of stories in the media from like Oman, which is a country that's very close in proximity. So they helped negotiate a lot, where they said that Iran was going to agree to zero stockpiling of enriched material, of nuclear material, with the U.S. If the U.S. would stop killing their leaders and agree to a bunch of other stuff that America probably would not agree to. But still, they had it on the table before these actions. The big threat and the big thing to be afraid of now is that we killed, and Iran in the past 20 years has had their most direct diplomatic vision, although I agree it is a terrorist state. But they've had some type of, you can understand what they were negotiating in a rational sense for their own interests. So like those people who were willing to do negotiations and willing to do nuclear deals, there's a chance we've killed all of those people. And there are divisions in the government there where they debate, like, should we be more hardline and bomb America and have all out war 24/7 and just, armor proxies to fight all the time? Or should we try to, do that to apply pressure, enrich, and use that for negotiations? Now in those debates, they might say, hey, look, we tried negotiating with America. They killed our negotiators every single time. It didn't work. We're not getting the deal we want. Being more hardline now, America is being forced to come to the table again after Trump said he didn't want to. And Iran is now threatening to, try and tax, to charge a toll out of the Strait of Hormuz. They feel pretty empowered in their positioning right now, because America has drained a lot of resources directly, not through proxy, directly to Iran. And they have not been harmed. They have been very harmed, don't get me wrong, but they have not been, their capacity has not been obliterated like they even thought. So those debates in the government, maybe someone takes control now who's not even willing to negotiate, but we don't even know if the new leader is alive. So it's hard to say.
To be honest with you, man, the Iran's win condition in this conflict is not military. They can't beat us militarily. There's no chance. In a conflict, we will win. Their win condition is that they survive and American will to fight dissipates. So their key weapon is asymmetric deterrence and propaganda, right? That's what it is. And part of the reason I get fired up when I'm talking to people who are, doubling down on, this is Israel's fault, or we shouldn't be there, no new wars, no forever wars, is that you have the right to free speech, and I'm applaud you for using it, but you are engaging in enemy propaganda, which is a key part of their war effort. So, you have the right to do it, and that's fine. But ultimately, I think we need to be honest about what that is. Like, there's a reason why Iran's spending a lot of time and effort on broadcasting their message, because they know the only way they win is that if we give up. I think this is a fight worth having, so we need to be willing to see it through. And unfortunately, that does require accepting that we're going to spend money, that Americans are going to be hurt, that Americans are going to die. That's
one of my arguments. That's one of my arguments, though, is that what we're doing right now helps them radicalize more terrorists, and killing all these hardliners, and who might be the more reasonable ones, is going to radicalize more people and cause more terrorism. And even with I'm someone who I was like, I was young, but I was like, America, hell yeah, when Osama bin Laden was assassinated. But then I read more into it, and I'm like, we probably spent a couple hundred more American lives, a couple billion more dollars to get Osama bin Laden, and all they did was use him as a martyr. The other military operations that could defeat like an Al Qaeda or an ISIS, could be effective, but going for these, decapitation strikes. And we're not even talking about legality. I know someone in my chat was asking if you care about if either of you care about any Congress approval or whatever, which I doubt it. I doubt you care. But
I'm a constitutional lawyer. If you want to talk about legality, I'm happy to do it. But I will say that in terms of like America, hell yeah, I also said America, hell yeah, when Osama bin Laden was killed. But the reason that I did it is because I'm old enough that I was in Manhattan during 9/11. I was a freshman in college, and a lot of my friends and people I knew died. So, like when we say America, hell yeah, because we killed Osama bin Laden, it's like, actually, yeah, America, hell yeah. Because the thing is,
and that's my main question, right?
When you actually live in a place where there's a terrorist attack, it sticks with you for a little bit, and you remember what happened and why, and what we need to do to keep our people safe. Now, does everything we do is perfect? No, but I know what team I'm on.
Yeah, no, but that's again, these are human beings as well in Iran. Okay, so they also, and one reason they can radicalize terrorists is because they grow up seeing USA bombs killing their parents and killing kids in their regions. They grew up, the only thing they know is American bombs, whether you think it's justified or not. And some things I think are justified. Like I'm on the left, but I'm not completely anti-war. I think there needs to be some areas where we project power. Like I am definitely a liberal, a neoliberal, whatever you want to call it. In that sense, definitely not a neocon, definitely not. But still, I see use cases for this kind of stuff. Like I'm very pro supporting Ukraine and all that kind of stuff.
I mean,
so like,
yes, we bombed and killed them, but my guy,
I don't we're doing strikes right now. Why are we bombing civilian infrastructure? Why are we bombing? Isn't that gonna, if we kill all the leaders and bomb civilian infrastructure and bomb little girl schools, that's gonna radicalize more people to become terrorists, right?
In the year of our Lord 2026, who has killed more Iranian civilians, us or the government of Iran?
Yeah, but we shouldn't be helping the government's propaganda by us killing people too.
You could answer the question if you wanted to. Who's killed more Iranian civilians? Us or their own government?
I don't know the exact numbers, but I know what America should be doing.
It's them by a lot. They've killed.
We shouldn't be doing that either,
8
though.
and 30,000, depending which estimate you use, of their own citizens for protesting. They killed their own citizens for. So, like, if you're going to talk to me about, like, oh no, the Iranians are people too, I agree with you, they're people too, but they live under a theocratic hellscape with their government.
We're bombing civilian infrastructure, though. We're hurting civilians there.
They killed their
hurting
own
civilians there. We're not just targeting. We're targeting their civilians. Why are we targeting civilian desalination plants?
It's not just.
Why are we killing civilians? That's my question. Why are we killing civilians? Why are we doing that? Why are we bombing desalination plants in their water supply? That's my question.
Hold on. Let me ask you a question. All right, and this is going to be maybe sound dumb when I first said, do people drink water? Yeah, they do. Are the people that make up the Iranian military people? Yeah. Oh, so it's a valid military target.
We should take water away from children in Iran because their military also drinks water.
I'm sorry. It's fucking war, bro. It is big brain. Listen, I'm sorry I'm not like you and I live in this happy-go-lucky world of sunshine and rainbows. War fucking sucks.
You want to help terrorists recruit more people. Hold on. I don't want to do that. You're helping terrorists right now recruit people because they say America's bombing our civilian infrastructure.
Okay, I guess we're doing blood sports now. I don't know. I'm saying I'm sitting here hearing what you're saying, and it's clear you have like this fanciful idea of what war is like. Blockades, they are a legitimate strategy. Taking away resources, that's a legitimate strategy. Are people going to suffer if we take away their ability to produce oil? Yeah, they're not going to have jobs. There's going to be less money. There's going to be less food, all sorts of things. That's going to happen. That's war, bro. And so guess what? If you can't supply your troops with water, guess what? They can't fight. And that sounds sad and sounds bad.
They still have water, right? Who's going to get the water? Okay, if they have a lack of water, do you realize they'll take it away from the kids and give it to the troops? Do you realize the first people who do not have water are going to be the kids? They will not give water to the kids. The troops will get the water first. They have the guns. They'll have the resources. You're just you're hurting Iranian civilians for no reason, and you're radicalizing more people against America.
Once again, this is just showing your lack of knowledge regarding history. How many sieges have been won due to the people?
I don't know where you are right now.
I'd let you talk for like 10 minutes. And
if the military want water, they'll use the guns to get the water. The kids will need water. They're replacing the water supply.
Hold on, wait. Hold on. The problem right now is that it seems as though Jolah is saying that like this is unjust regardless.
I would like to answer
in favor of it.
It's dumb for America too. It's making America lose more. We're losing to terrorist propaganda.
Hold on.
The only
hold on. Stop. Hold on. So I'm trying to get,
and it's also wrong to kill kids.
A moral justification for like normally we would consider it, I think, an international crime to like cut off water from civilians, even if it's to cut it off from military. And so he's looking for some sort of justification for
before we go any further down this line, just to say, because I know sometimes this is my role in this conversation, the only source for this happening so far, to my knowledge, is an Iranian official. So I am not confident this actually even occurred. But if Jolah has a source that is not the Iranian official being repeated. He can.
Well, the
let us
argument
know.
is Israel did it. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, cool. Then we didn't even do it. So who cares? On top of that, I want to I'll play the evil guy. I don't give a shit. Fuck him. And like, so here's my thing, right? If you're taking away the resources, I'm not going to give you a moral justification. I am going to give you a strategic one. And this is why I brought Rome earlier. We look at history to see how things repeat. If you cut off supplies and people suffer, how many wars have been won from the inside when the people suffering finally had enough of their evil government going, hey, we're not going to capitulate. Oh, hey, y'all were shitty anyway. Maybe we should revolutionize and fight. Oh, hundreds, thousands of wars. So what Jolah is doing right now is he wants to focus in this narrow framework for talking points instead of looking at history and seeing how this tried and true tactic has won time and time again. More people might actually be saved by this because people might reach a level of suffering faster that they actually act faster, because the whole fastest way to get somebody to leave sloth is to sit here and cause them a little pain. And guess what? If they go, hey, we've been getting killed in thousands of numbers by the Iranian government directly, and Iraq and Iran, all these other countries are sitting here going, hey, we can do whatever we want and we don't have any repercussions from our people, they're going to keep doing it. So if we go in there and we cause them a little bit of suffering, which is already in addition to what they're causing them, these people might get off their ass and do something about taking out these evil theocratic leaders. And when we're sitting here degrading their military capabilities, yeah, I say it's a perfectly viable strategy. And I'm sorry, you're sitting here moral frogging whenever you're sitting here saying it's okay for them to kill all these other people the whole time and not do anything about it. So forgive me for not believing your high horse and saying that it's a talking point, because you don't give a shit about all the gays they killed. You don't give a shit about all the women that got stoned to death. You don't care when they protested, they shot them in mass.
The only gay I care about surviving is you, buddy. If you're alive, you're the only gay I care about.
So,
hey, come here, sweet cheeks.
So just
okay, I got it.
Just so that we can be very, very clear about what we're talking about, like the desalination strike. I mean, I don't know whether it happened, but the sources that I've seen so far are only on the Iranian side, and therefore, in my mind, not yet credible. Who knows? But if we're worried about kids, and Jolah, I heard you say that you were very worried about kids. One thing that we do know for sure, because there's been a documented history of it for decades, is that Iran employs child soldiers in their war efforts. So amongst their many crimes against their own people, including, as Gibbs just referenced, the just shooting them in the street for trying to speak publicly against the regime this year in the thousands, they will also predictably use children in war. And let me give you the sneak preview of how this is going to look. They're going to recruit kids, as they do. And what do they use kids for when they recruit them for? Historically, they use them as minesweepers. They send them into dangerous places to eat the shrapnel before the Iranian National Guard goes in.
Well,
and then what they're going to do is that they're going to leak it to CNN. They're going to have a statement about the terrible tragedy that just occurred, and people like Jolah are going to lap it up and they're going to use it for partisan purposes. But the point I'm making is that this is all part of their war effort. They want their own kids to die because it gives them good PR, and it lets people who are going to come and make points against Trump because they are so partisan and they hate Trump so much that they are willing to do lip service for the Iranian regime that is going to kill their own children to make a point predictably. And it's going to happen. It happened in the last war. It'll happen in this one. It's their go-to move.
Well, just to correct this real quick, from what I can see, even the U.S. Embassy has said that there's critical water shortages, and that it's not throughout all of Iran, but it is through the major cities like Tehran.
Well,
They're
because of a U.S. strike on a desalination plant?
No, it's not because of that. In fact, I brought this up earlier in my opening. The Taliban, before they were going to war with Pakistan, was considering fighting 3 other countries. I think it's Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and Iran, because they're fighting all over water and who's got access to it over there. So yeah, it is when y'all want to talk about complicated issues, just look up the water crisis over in that region, and you can see they were already talking about having a major war just in that region over that. But Pakistan decided, hey, it's go time, so Iran, Taliban need involved. So when you're talking about the desal plant, this is a multi-layer issue, and we just exacerbated it potentially. I'm not even sure if we
so there is the desalination plant is one major part of it. And then on top of that, it's also the South Pars field being attacked has also made it to where there's water out or power outages that makes it harder for them to transfer the water from one place to another, especially again in major cities like Tehran. But while you do keep bringing up arguments about how this is what the Iranian government wants, that this is part of their propaganda, but it doesn't mean that people can't actually agree with them. It doesn't mean that there can't be times where there's something that's actually bad happening that other people can actually empathize with or think that the United States ought not do.
Sure, yeah, but it's the same thing I said when people were talking about the conflict with Israel and Gaza, which is, when you have one side that benefits from the killing of their own children, when one side is actually incentivized for their own children to die because it's part of their war strategy, and the PR is part of their war strategy. I'm not saying it doesn't tug on your heartstrings. It should. You're a human being. I'm not saying that you should ignore it, but you should take it into account.
Well, then for Gibbs, Gibbs was making the argument that this is something that would hurt their military and their government, but I would assume that their military and their government would be the first ones to actually get water, that they would be able to find resources somehow, be able to get water transferred in for them, whereas the citizens not as much, and so it would still end up only really hurting the citizens.
No, it's twofold. No, you're right. They would get the water first, and what does that breed? Have you ever seen what happens when there's a gas shortage and people go in line at the gas station? Who are the people the most mad at? Not the gas station owner. They're mad at the guy in front of them. They got the gas first. So guess what that's going to cause? It's going to cause, they might have water in the military, but now they're going to have to police their streets because now people are rioting because they don't have anything to fucking drink and they're dying. And so now they have to police those people. And those people are sitting there saying, give us fucking water. Stop giving it to the troops. Stop fighting somebody that's stronger than you, or we're going to do something. And so eventually it causes pressure on them from both ways. And then guess what? They fall apart from the inside with pressure from the outside. This is why I keep bringing up
that historically been true for Iran, systemically already? For resources that there's shortages in resources.
Yeah, and that's why they're having unrest. That's part of the reason why they're having unrest already. You bring it up in addition to them being a very draconian, totalitarian, theocracy dictatorship kind of thing that imposes all these laws, they always put their fucking military first over the needs of their people. And they've been open about that, and people are upset. So I agree with you. It has been traditionally a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, when Donald Trump was recently asked about them shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, he said that nobody thought that they would actually do it. Do you guys believe, I guess, Ryan, we'll go to you first. Do you believe that there was no counseling on the fact that they would shut down the Strait of Hormuz before bombing Iran?
I have no idea. And I just want to be candid about my lack of certainty or knowledge in this area. President Trump, amongst his many qualities, is somebody who says things, and I think it would be very, very foolish to assume that he's telling you the whole case in general. And then in this specific situation, I think he was asked a question today. If X happened, what would you do? Is a military question. If you found out about that they were enriching, what would you put boots on the ground then? And he was like, I couldn't possibly answer that question. Why would you ask me that question? And he's right. It would be really, really silly to broadcast military intel and military strategy and military objectives for everyone to hear. It would be preposterous. So I don't know what they knew. Certainly, I would say that Iran's mines, drones, and swift boats have been a successful aspect of their asymmetric deterrence. I don't think it's something we can't clear up ultimately, but it's going to be harder. Because as we covered earlier, it's water, not air, and air domination.
Are you saying that he wouldn't give insight into their military strategy, as though him pretending that he didn't know that they would shut down the Strait of Hormuz is a part of him not communicating some sort of strategy, or what?
I think. Go ahead.
Well, I want to add to what you're saying. And so my grandmother, many, many years ago, before she died, she was mind blown by this age of information that we live in and how we have access to everything. And she goes, I actually don't like that the government tells us what they're doing in the Freedom of Information Act, how they're all the time. Now, I don't necessarily agree with her on that. However, what she did say was true. She's like, why do we tell people what we're going to do before we do it over these countries? Then they can defend against it. Then they can act against it. With With Trump, it's like that he will always be saying one thing and be dealing a deck of cards over the top. In his book, The Art of the Deal, and several of others' book, he will say verbose things, knowing that something that's slightly lower is going to happen. So when you aim high, you sell mid. This is an age-old sales tactic. It's an age-old political tactic. So to echo what Ryan said, I don't know whether or not he knew what he knew. I don't know exactly, but I can say that yeah, he was selling this as what he's going to do. And when he's saying, "Oh, we can stop this, we can do this," it leads to things like, "Oh, us taking over insuring from Leeds to London in the Strait of Hormuz." If they do it, it's like, hey, we get these benefits. If they don't do it, we win faster. So it's like, damned if we do, damned if we don't. Except in this case, it's win if we do, win if they do. Like either way, we're getting a win. So like that's the way Trump is. You can't always take everything at face value. You always have to be looking for what the secondary and third to your objectives might be, because that's probably what he's actually going for.
Also, Tom, if there's a quote you want me to respond to, can you just can you read it or whatnot? Because I mean, again, I'm not saying you're wrong. I just, on a quick Google, I couldn't find him saying those words. Maybe he said something else and that's what you were thinking of. Or maybe I just did a quick search and couldn't find it. So it's possible it's on me. But I'm not sure which quote you're referring to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was almost the exact quote.
Yeah, I mean, ChatGPT could be wrong, right? Like it hallucinates all the time. So I'm not putting that on you. That could be on me.
Okay, so just from Google AI search, it says during his presidency in March 2026, Donald Trump was reportedly asked about the effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz and the Navy's inability to escort tankers. While he did not explicitly say he didn't know the strait was shut down, having repeatedly issued ultimatums to Iran to reopen it, he did provide an. Oh wait, that's not. That is not,
that's the opposite of what you said.
No, that's not what no, he's saying he didn't know it was shut down.
Yeah, because you said he said that he didn't know that they would shut it down, and
that they were going to shut down.
Yeah,
but he didn't know that they did shut it down.
I got the same answer on my chat bot, which was like, that's not what he said. So I just wanted to make sure that we were responding to an accurate quote. Gibbs, what did you get?
As you may know, I am now a reverend, and I got my 2 religious doctrines. So we got also new sorts of stuff, so we can go do whatever. We got some new Bibles. I got a couple new crosses for some ceremonies. We're gonna go do some shooting of guns at my gay friend's wedding. You know what I'm saying? And
nice.
It'll be real fun.
Nice.
I don't know. Yeah, it'll be good times.
Father Gibbs.
Well, yeah, Brother Gibbs, because we're Southern Baptist. But either way,
Brother Gibbs. My bad.
That was a joke about the gay friends wedding thing, if you know about Southern Baptist. Except, never mind. That's a little off topic. Sorry, we didn't mean to derail you there, Tom.
Each time I ask this, it's answering a question that I'm not asking. This is really fucking.
What is your question? I'm sorry,
Tom. Don't let it derail your whole.
What is your question? I'll try to answer it directly.
It's nothing. It's
no.
He had
a quote from Trump that I couldn't find online, and I asked if he could show it to me, and we can't find it online. So I'm just going to assume that. I think we can move on. Like, I'm not sure that we can find that quote.
Yeah, that's one thing with Trump, is that, like, and this is kind of what I've said many times, is that he plays like secrecy by telling you so much. He'll say so many things that it's so hard to nail one thing down, and like. It's really an interesting strategy. Like, I think, like, back in the day with Bill Clinton, had gotten in trouble for what was the Monica Lewinsky thing. If he had just owned up to it, or said something else wild, or done something else wild, people would have forgot about that. Like, maybe if he had actually gone outside and smoked weed with Willie, it would have gone back. Trump's kind of like that. He'll do something wild, and then you forget about what he did last week. And it's an interesting strategy.
Yeah, it certainly worked for him.
Yeah, this is something that, like, Tulsi Gabbard was asked about numerous times in front of the Senate the other day, and she wouldn't. They kept asking her if she did consult him on this and let him know that it was likely that the strait would be shut down, and she wouldn't answer the question, seemingly because she didn't want to contradict what it was that Trump said. So I remember watching him say it. I know that he said it. It's answering questions that I'm not asking, because this is one of the problems that I have with searching things with the war every day, is that because there's so many developments on a daily basis, that even if I try finding something from a week ago, it's only giving me stuff from the last 2 days every single time that I search.
I think you're 100% right about that, Tom. And also, this was kind of a hard lesson for me during the Israel-Palestine conflict, where you had in the modern era, information warfare is part of a war effort. So like even if you try to stay up to date on the news, things get put up and taken down and changed really quickly. There's a lot of sources that I see where I look at them and I'm like, oh my God, that's a big deal. And then I realize it's not trustworthy. You know, like it's tough. It's tough out there to consume media these days because, you know, you have to be aware that both sides are maximally engaged in propaganda efforts right now. Like that's just
I
part
will
of it.
say, I don't know if you saw Iran's propaganda wing today. They dropped a fucking banger, and I hope it goes on Spotify. It was very good. Just saying. They've had some pretty. I'll give them credit where credit's due. They've had some very good AI rap songs.
Yeah, Iran did put out a very funny cartoon making fun of Trump. That was very.
The Lego
funny.
ones are good. They've done 2 or 3 of those now.
Yeah, that's.
They also, Trump and his administration had recently been asking other NATO members for help over in Iran.
Demanding that these countries come in and protect their own territory because it is their territory. It's a place from which they get their energy. And they should come and they should help us protect it. We are talking to other countries about working with us on the policing of the strait. And I think we're getting good response. If we do, that's great. And if we don't, that's fine too. Remember, like as an example, in many cases, the NATO countries, we're always there for NATO. We're helping them with Ukraine. And it's got an ocean in between us. Doesn't affect us, but we've helped them. It'd be interesting to see what country wouldn't help us with a very small endeavor, which is just keeping the.
So, Jolah, do you think any other countries have a responsibility to come help the United States, considering that the United States has been there, especially financially, for these other countries?
I think that if we use the early 2000s as reference, and if we look at NATO as a structure, I mean, early 2000s, Bush and Cheney and everyone, they tried making arguments for a long time before doing operations like this or wars like this. And, you know, allies agreed to partake in it as well. We evoked Article 5. We had, I think, hundreds of Europeans come in and fight and die for us in the Middle East. So they have come to America's defense after 9/11 and that terrorist attack. Now this, it seems that even Marco Rubio himself, and I hate doing this too, because I do think that people do use this, you know, and weaponize it for anti-Semitism. I do think that happens a lot. For like the Fuentes of the world, but it is true that they said that Israel forced their hand and drug us into this war, and that could be the same. Although Canada and Europe are showing pretty positive signals towards, you know, supporting being anti-Iran. I think even Carney was like happy America did the strikes and everything. I don't think it's their responsibility to jump out here and spend billions of dollars, and I don't think that it's defensive what America is doing right now. So that'd be a disagreement we'll have on this panel. But yeah, I don't think that they should be forced within days to dedicate efforts to this and be threatened with terrorism and their own internal politics. The leaders of these countries, no one wants them to be involved in this. So they're not going to get elected if they do help America.
Ryan?
I think they are under a lot of pressure to help us, and I don't mean moral pressure necessarily. I mean economic pressure. The reality is, America is, you know, our interest in oil flowing between countries is about price management. But in terms of actually having oil, we actually have enough oil. We have our own oil. We have we produce an excess of oil. We're a net exporter. Europe, on the other hand, they are very reliant on oil from the Middle East in particular, but also oil from Russia in some places, in order to fuel their economies. And I think that they are going, if the strait stays closed, for example, for an extended period of time, they're going to suffer far more than we do, and their citizens are going to suffer far more than we do in that circumstance. So that's hopefully something their governments will take into account. Who knows whether or not they will, but they probably should. One difference, not that we've not been doing legal stuff, so I'm not going to belabor legal stuff, but one difference between the conflict now and the conflict in Iraq is that at least for the first Gulf War, we could get UN Security Council authorization for strikes, which then we argued could be used for the second Gulf conflict as well. If you went to get any authorization to take action against Iran in the UN today, it would be obviously vetoed by Russia and China, who have permanent vetoes in the UN, because this is a proxy fight between the great powers of China and the United States. Both the China and the United States have a veto at the UN level. There's no chance that this would ever have worked, and it would have blown the element of surprise. So just, it is a little bit different in terms of coalition building. And the last thing I'll say, just because I'm remembering the thread that I picked up there earlier, Rubio said a few things. He had the one comment we saw in that video that was played earlier, and then he had a later comment where he explained that what he meant, even if people interpreted it in a different way, was that our allies, Israel, had an opportunity. They had a joint, they told us they were going to go. It was advantageous for us to go, so we went. You can call that being dragged in, but the entire reason, well, not the entire, but one of the major reasons that we are allies with Israel is because they have the best military in the region, and they have the best intelligence operation in the region. This is what our alliance is for. That they can show us when and where, then we can piggyback off of their capacity to achieve our own goals. It's not weird for your allies and you to have a shared military goal. That's what an alliance is for.
Well, it's kind of the other way around, though, right? They have a strong military because we're allies with them. We're not allies with them because they have a strong military.
Well, they've had a strong military since their founding. They've had the entire Middle East has declared war on them, like 13 times, something like this. Like they've won every war they've been a part of. They pound for pound, they have the strongest military in the world. We just weigh a lot more pounds because we're the 100-pound gorilla. They're the Mighty Mouse. But in terms of their pound for pound capacity, yeah, they have an exceptional military.
Also, we have to talk about their tech. Like I said, I brought up the I think it's the F-35E or F-35I and the F-15. I always switch them. One's I, one's E, but it's F-15, F-16I, and the F-16. Anyway, they've got two variants that we've adopted now, and we're improving for our own stuff. And they did the tactics. The other thing is, my chat just brought this up. Their intelligence. I was reading a report now. They think the part of the reason we were able to get so many of their leadership is because not how only did they get into the leadership, they got into the dentistry and all the areas around where they have bases and stuff. And they basically implanted trackers that don't require electricity into their teeth. So these people are walking around for almost 10 years with trackers, and that's why we're able to pinpoint locate bomb. Do you really want to fuck with a power that's so good at intelligence they can put a tracker in your teeth, you never know about it, and they get bombed? This is the kind of conspiracy theory shit that they were talking about. Oh, they're going to implant us with the virus and the vaccines. Israel's doing this already, except they're putting it in your teeth and nobody even thought about it. This is wild stuff, and this is why they keep winning. Intelligence and logistics wins war, and then tech. And guess what? Israel's got all three, and they have the will to use them.
Remember when they blew up all the terrorist nuts last year? Mossad has the best intelligence we have any access to in the region. I'm endlessly confused with people saying that it's weird that we would do something that benefits us and an ally. That's just what alliances are for.
Well, that kind of comes to the actual question, though, is with other countries not wanting to get involved, obviously it would be somewhat beneficial for them to get involved. To me, it almost reads as though a lot of these countries have lost respect for the United States, or they don't trust Donald Trump in this conflict, to where maybe they would get involved if it was somebody else, but it doesn't seem as though they're willing to get involved while it's Donald Trump who's leading the way. Do you guys think that it is Trump that is making the difference here?
Maybe. I don't know. It's possible. Maybe with a different president, maybe if it was announced in a different way and he built a coalition for months and months. Now, of course, this was a surprise attack, so building a coalition for months and months, not a viable option in a surprise scenario. But I could imagine a different president who hadn't done the tariffs. Maybe I think in good faith that might have swayed them. But here's the thing ultimately, and this is the major criticism of Europe that Trump's been leveled, and it's a fair one. They've been free riding on our military forever. They've been free riding on our military. They just started spending on defense for the first time ever. And what they were doing is they were not spending on their own defense and then criticizing us for spending on ours and saying, how come you guys don't have the universal healthcare systems that are falling apart all over Europe? But the ultimate truth is that Europe is in a state of managed decline right now. Like they are fading as a relevant power block. Like if I was looking at the great powers in the world right now, I would say America, China, Russia in that order. Europe would be fourth. And they don't seem poised to make a comeback. Unfortunately, they became the kind of allies who were very happy to spend time criticizing us while riding on our coattails. So I mean, I don't know. Would they have been more useful? Maybe. If they show up, I will be pleasantly surprised. I hope they will. I think it would be better if they did, but I do think that they've been very critical of us doing the work that they were unwilling and or unable to do that kept them safe for a long time. So, we'll see. Jonah, by the way, Jolah, sorry, I keep calling you Jonah. I know we've gone hard in the paint a few times. Your partner drunkenly rage quit on you earlier in the debate.
Yeah, I feel bad about that.
That sucks, man. It sucks to be outnumbered on a panel. So
yeah,
I want to shout that out while we have a break.
Well, just real quick, we did get a raid from
I wasn't even that bad.
We did get a raid from Illogics, and so I did send him an invite and asked him if he wanted to hop on just in case he wanted to even it back up again.
I want to apologize, Tom. I did not intend for. Oh God, it keeps doing this every time I put my hand up. I want to apologize, Tom. I did not expect him to rage quit after he called me a retard, and I just responded to it in opening. But hey, there's those that have balls and those that pretend to be conservative, and that's him.
Is there beef between you two? Apparently,
yeah, he's a fucking piece of shit, and I don't like him. But he's got owned, and I fucking cost him half his viewership 3 or 4 times because I put him on blast and I showed him how fake a conservative he was. So he doesn't like it because I hurt his bottom dollar. But hey, it's okay. Get good scrub.
You should.
It did not cross my mind when I initially invited both of them, and then found out afterwards that remembered afterwards.
Yeah, I'll fight anybody. I don't like a lot of people. In the real life, I'll fight, but I'll work with anybody. If they're willing to do it. But some people have a case of pussitis, and CounterPoints is maybe the biggest example of bitch assness in all of streaming. So fuck that pussy.
Well, since we're doing random tangents, if you're interested in that sort of content and you want to see a conversation between me and Connor, where I was trying to figure out whether he was a conservative or a progressive, it's up on my channel. There's some spicy shit there, so go check it out.
But yeah, Joah, what was your takes on the allies? Do you think that the reason that they're not hopping in the UK or even NATO isn't helping is because Trump is the one who's leading the way right now? Do you think they would have done it if it was another leader at the time?
Yeah, right now, it makes sense why Europe would not want to help, whether it's Europeans or European leadership. So this is the first time, I think, in our modern history where China has a better perception on the global stage when it comes to Canada and Europe, and that's from the trade wars and Trump and JD Vance calling Europe a bunch of weak ass idiots who are free riders. And the truth is, if you look over why America has military bases everywhere, why we do NATO training exercises in Europe and all these different locations. And you could even include Israel here. We use all of these countries as military bases. And we've been doing that for a long time for our power projection. And that's sort of the deal. They house our troops. They house our bases. They share intel. We give, protection of some kind, and Europe is able to be relatively safe. And there are politicians in Europe, and especially France, who are against America doing that because, they say America makes us too reliant on America. And if America ever pulls funding from us, we'll have to actually build something ourselves. And it's going to be very hard for us to do that. And that's what Trump and JD Vance said very clearly, is they intend to make it that reality. So if JD Vance and Trump really want to live in a world where they don't need Europe's help, then Trump can't be out here crying oh, please send us minesweepers. Please get into the war tomorrow. It's like, Trump, if you think, Trump says one time America can do it by ourselves, then he says we need our allies. You got to pick one. You got to treat them like allies and get them to like America and want to support America, or you can't be surprised when they just say, no, they're not going to help us.
Well, you brought up something interesting, and you brought this up earlier about all the missiles being spent and all this good things. One of the key cornerstones to Trump's policy when he was running for office, I'm going to use 2 of them, was one, he wants us to have the strongest military in the world. Well, how do you do that? You have a lot of stuff. And secondly, what else did he say? He wants to bring manufacturing back to America. Well, I mentioned in my opening that we're building drones over in Arizona. I mentioned we're building drones in the Gulf state of Texas down here by the border. So it's pretty clear to me that he's fulfilling campaign promises by getting manufacturing here, by making sure we have the strongest military, by using new tech, by using new strategies, by demonstrating our air superiority, getting this combat experience in a country that's not ready. So yeah, I think he's actually fulfilling more campaign promises. Even if let's take it on face value. That's 100% true that he meant no new wars in the way y'all are saying, which is not, but let's just say it is. Then he's still fulfilling more campaign promises by doing this. And so it's like, oh, cross one out, but gain three more. I think that is a win.
I would just say that in every other policy Trump has done, American manufacturing has declined from its peak under Biden since Trump took office. Our private investments, they hit a peak in like 2023, 2024, I'm pretty sure, and they've been declining. If we are getting more manufacturing because of that, it's by accident. And I do support American manufacturing, so that's great. But I wish it was not always just Lockheed Martin. I wish we were building more batteries, more sustainable energy infrastructure for the future that is also not made with parts from China that they can easily hack someday, maybe, possibly. So that concerns me. I'm almost about to start another conversation about cybersecurity.
You like energy? You like energy stuff? You just said batteries. You know, do y'all remember when everybody made fun of Texas a couple of years ago because we had the big snowstorm and everybody froze to death in Texas? Well, thank you. Yeah. Texas is the leader in renewable energy, right? And so now, and we built a bunch of batteries. We built a bunch of manufacturing. Now we're even looking at building those micro nuke plants. These are all happening under Trump because he's lower regulations. He's got stuff going down here. Like I just when you say these things, it's by accident. It's why is it that the states that are most aligned with Trump are the ones that are actually going and doing these things, like Texas getting green energy,
well,
like
Texas,
Arizona. Texas also has the most windmills that are killing.
Well,
the
also Joe Biden's
policies. Watch out for the windmills. The cows don't like them.
With Joe Biden's policies, the infrastructure bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, I'm pretty sure Texas might be the largest recipient of Joe Biden's policies. Red states receive more money than blue states did because they have more grounds to build these factories. It probably is cheaper. There is a need for, I think conservatives that I know, they like solar panels and wind energy. They just don't want to be gay. And people think it's gay to support solar energy, which I think is Chinese propaganda personally.
But that's only partially true. Like, so you know why we have more solar panels? It's so because Texas did something else in addition to that allowed us to have solar panels. So let's compare Texas and California on energy. California's got a ton of restrictions, right? Because they have to all these different things. You have to meet these EPA stuff, all this other extra stuff. Well, Texas, what we did was we deregulated the energy market. So now you can actually sell your energy back to the energy companies. That's why most houses, not most, but a lot of the houses have solar panels on them in Texas. That's why they're able to do the windmills and all sorts of stuff. And so, yes, Joe Biden did do that. But in addition to that, Texas took other initiative steps to gain this green energy push because they've sat here and said, hey, well, if they're going to do this, let's deregulate our market and get rid of other laws somewhere else that's going to allow this to actually thrive, as opposed to what California did, who's also a very large state. And they went the opposite way, which is put more regulations, more restrictions. So, yeah, you can try to give Joe Biden the credit, but that's ignoring the fact that conservatives in Texas have done all these additional things to make that work.
Well, Texas is leading for utility. I'm sorry, just one quick thing. Texas is leading for like utility solar production, but California still leads with like people having solar panels on their houses as well. So if you combine private and public, I think California is still ahead, but Texas is definitely the fastest growing and is going to be overtaking California within the next couple of years.
The thing. I mean, I know we're going way off topic now, sure. But ultimately, if your concern is like, if we're talking about like the energy grid, I would encourage anybody who watches this to pay attention to your local politics more than federal politics, because that's where the actual action is most of the time. Agreed. Like New York, where I don't live anymore, but I used to, is they talk a really big game about going green, all these policies, X, Y, and Z. But the reality is they decommissioned their nuclear plant, which was the greenest part of their actual grid makeup. And their policies make it so that if you install solar on your house, you can't decouple from the energy company. And in fact, you have to pay the energy company every month. So like the proof is in the pudding in terms of local policies. And that's not even, I'm not trying to make this like a left or right thing. That's just like oftentimes if you want to actually achieve something that requires zoning or like actually functional law, it's not always federal. It's often state or local, and people need to show the fuck up and vote in their local elections because some of these laws are just idiotic. Like, you know, it's the fact that New York has laws on the books that make it harder for people to do green energy while claiming that they're prioritizing green energy is just, I mean, the hypocrisy and how frustrating it is I'm sure obvious just from the explanation.
And the answer to that question
real
you
quick,
pointed up
we
there.
have one last question. Trump claimed that Iran had 48 hours to negotiate, or else he was going to obliterate the oil fields. Since then, he has backed off, initially saying that they were negotiating. Iran claimed that they weren't negotiating. And then the Trump administration was upset with the media for believing Iran over the United States. Jolah, did you believe Iran when they said that they were not negotiating with the Trump administration at the time?
I probably do, just because Trump says stuff all the time, and it just happens to correlate with when the markets open and close. So it's hard to really take anything seriously that Trump says here. And Trump also was talking about how Iran gave us a big gift by allowing, and he was hiding what the big gift was, and apparently the big gift was allowing 10 carriers to pass through. 10 oil carriers to pass through that were not even from America. And Trump said it was a gift for the global oil markets, but it was for countries like India.
He received a big gift.
Yeah, he received a big gift.
And then the next day he said, well, the oil tankers through.
Yeah, for like India, so not for America, but technically Trump liked it because it helps the global oil supply. So he says stuff like that all the time. I don't believe they were really negotiating. I don't think Iran would negotiate directly. If it was through like Oman or another country like that, I would believe it, but I don't think Iran would directly do that right now.
Well, but that's how that's just a factual thing. That's how they're negotiating. Like if you might not think they are, but if they are negotiating, our terms went to Pakistan. Pakistan gave the terms to Iran. So if they were negotiating, it would be triangularly through another country like Pakistan. Sorry, Gibbs,
but the 48 hours thing is the big thing, right?
Yeah, this is your chat's question that you just posted up on here, Tom. It's actually because Tom is actually Kane from Command and Conquer. That's why he's a based Chad bald. You know what I'm saying? Sorry.
I keep seeing a lot of people talk about how jealous Gibbs is of my bald head, but
I am very jealous.
I mean, it is a shiny bald head.
Kane is kind of a badass. I'm just saying, you know.
Well, when Trump was asked who he was negotiating with, Ryan, he'd said top tier people. And when they said, who is it? He says, I don't know. It's somebody really high level. And so it didn't sound as though it was going through another country. He made it sound like he was talking to somebody directly, while Iran was denying that they were actually, having any negotiations.
I mean, again, like, you know, one of the things we're talking about, like what was said in negotiations, if they occurred, that like none of us possibly could be there. We're just looking at media reports. Like what I had read was that our terms were sent through Pakistan, and Pakistan gave them to Iran. I mean, I don't know how we could prove or disprove that the negotiations took place. And also, it's a little bit of a weird one, right? Because like if you're negotiating by proxy and you send terms and they say, you know, we don't like your terms, are you negotiating? Like that actually is kind of how negotiating that I've been involved in a lot of negotiations where I'm like, would you like to settle this lawsuit? And they're like, screw yourself.
Well,
like,
in this case,
we're negotiating.
That wouldn't be the case in this scenario, because the deadline was at this moment, that if they didn't actually start negotiating this within those 48 hours, that they were going to be obliterated, that their South Parsfield was going to be obliterated. And so the idea has to be that they were actually entering into negotiations, not just saying like, no, we're not interested in that, right?
And I don't know what he meant by that, and I don't know what happened, and I don't know, you know, what would have satisfied him in that situation, or if he was just blustering and threatening. Like I don't know, and I don't know that any of us could possibly know. Like we're in this strange situation where, you know, it's like, what is Trump thinking? What is the Ayatollah thinking? It's like I don't know that we have access to that information. I think all we can do is kind of watch the process play out. The only insight I can give to that, because of the lack of information, is that like oftentimes people think of negotiation, I think in a false way. They think negotiation is you sit down and you talk about it, and that's how you solve the problem. That's not normally what negotiation is. Like when I litigate and I'm suing someone or they're suing my client and we negotiate, what that means is we figure out who has leverage. Something has to change in the case. Someone wins a motion, someone loses a motion. You bomb something, they defend something, they block the straight, we open the straight. Like the leverage decides the negotiation, not the conversation at the table. The conversation at the table reflects the leverage. So, negotiations, it's an open term. And in a military context, negotiation includes blowing shit up. So, we'll see. Hopefully, I would love for there to be a resolution that achieves American goals and is quick and saves lives. That would be great.
Gibbs, do you think it was ridiculous that American media believed Iran when they said that they weren't going to, that they weren't negotiating at the time?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, I don't know. The media just reports what they say. I don't know exactly which quote you're talking about, but it doesn't surprise me at all that someone on the left and I guess mainstream media, and this always annoyed me why Fox calls the others mainstream media when they're the biggest one in the world, said, oh, hey, these guys said this, and then they got mad. It's just partisan argumentation. I don't expect anything less from people picking sides. For whatever reason, the Dems have got in bed with the socialists and the Muslim terrorists. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess, it's probably a little ridiculous, but it's politics as usual is what I would probably say.
You don't actually think the Dems are actually like Iran, do you? Like, you don't actually think Democrats like Iran?
I don't think all the Dems do, but like I was on a panel earlier this week and the Iran war came up, and one of the guys is a Dem, and he said, hey, it would be good if we lost this war. Because it would help multipolarity, and the United States needs to lose or fall, be readopted. So
that
I don't
like a
think
socialist though, or a communist.
I was about to say that.
I said that, but this is the problem. With both sides, we do this. We're like, they're big tits, right? And so I think there is a portion that has gotten in bed, and I think specifically, I said this just a second. The socialists have gotten in bed with the Muslim extremists, and I think on the right, there's people on the right. We can pick groups on the right, like, oh, maybe I don't know. If Nick Flynn is on the right, I don't know. He's a Nazi, so who knows?
Okay, if I can limit it to like Democrats in mainstream media or like actual politicians, like leaders within the Democrat Party, like, do you actually think any of those people like Iran or on
maybe
Iran?
Ilhan Omar? Maybe, I don't know. Other than her, I have no idea. I'd wager she probably.
Ilhan Omar would get killed in Iran. Like these people, like Zohran Mamdani, would get killed in Iran. Like Zohran Mamdani, but you have to look at him. He's the most radical. Like he's literally a Muslim socialist who's a Democrat, and he distanced himself from Hassan Piker. He disavowed Hassan Piker. So even like the most far left, actual Muslim socialist Democrats are distancing themselves from like the tankies or communists or socialists like Hassan. So like the Democratic Party is not that whatsoever. It's some fringe crazy shit.
You say that, and like, I mean, everybody's like has to do this. But I mean, how many times have we seen in politics on both sides where the guy goes, "Oh, I don't want this guy's support" or whatever, and then says a lot of the same things they do. So it's like, "Oh yeah, I publicly disavowed them." And again, we see this all the time. So I'm not necessarily buying that, especially in light of Madami's wife's comments coming to right recently. So they're pretty clearly on this tangential side of the Iran. I think same thing with Ilhan Omar.
Wait, why would you say that? No, they hate Iran. They don't like Iran. They also just think America is bad too in foreign policy, but they hate Iran.
Yeah, it's
you can criticize America and still hate Iran. They're not pro-Iran. There's nothing that she said that's pro-Iran. What did she say that was pro-Iran? Or Zohran? Zohran criticized. He strongly condemned Iran and everything about them.
Yeah, but once again, they say this and then they sit here and make all the talking points that are on their side. I'm not saying that they're sitting here taking money from Iran. I'm not sitting here saying that that's what's happening. I'm just saying that it's an allyship of convenience for some of these. Now, if you want to talk about the mainstream, the libs, no, I don't think they're mostly on the side of Iran. No, if that's what you're asking. But there is at least a contingent that vote Democratic that are on their side.
I don't think. I don't think she said that she supports Iran. I do think it's accusing the country of bombing them during Ramadan because of who they worship is not exactly a helpful statement. No. So yeah, but Jolah, to give you the point in fairness, I don't think I am at least unaware of any Democratic politicians saying like, I think Iran is better the way that Hassan Piker would.
Yeah, it's like it's Tulsi Gabbard in Syria. You know what I'm saying? I'm just...
Well, she is a foreign agent too, which is crazy that she works for the job she does. But yeah, I mean, Zohran Mamdani, everything about him. It's funny when Republicans, I see them talking about Sharia law and Zohran, and I'm like, Zohran is a pro-trans, extremely secular person who probably is just like a person who's a Christian and goes to church like once every year so they can say they're Christian, and they just like wear pride flags everywhere. Like he's Muslim in the same exact very casual capacity, but people call him like a, you know, wanting Sharia law when his wife wears, you know, belly shirts with, you know, see-through shirts with bralettes. Like it's so stupid to say he's pro-radical Islam. Like they would definitely be killed in Iran or another country like that and protest the regime.
I don't think they're pro-Iran. I think that what I see on the left is an unwillingness to view patriotism and geopolitics as a team sport.
Well, that's the big thing you would hate, right? That they're anti-American hegemony, right? Which is your big thing, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think that they don't see that as they're anti-American exceptionalism, they're anti-American hegemony, they're anti, you know, the idea that America is acting in its own interest and doing things for this reason. Like, for example, they would say something to you about they would bring up international law a lot. The implication being that it would be better if America was beholden to international law and subject to some sort of international body that would be able to stop America from violating international law in all the ways they accuse it of doing. Things like this. Then, is that pro-Iran? No. Is it directly contrary to American values and American exceptionalism? Yeah. And that is a problem. It's not the problem of being pro-Iran, but it is not an insignificant problem.
Well, Jolah, you brought up the Tulsi Gabbard being a shill for Russia and seemingly for Iran as well. A lot of people have made the complaint that this current war is only helping Russia. Do you think that Russia is benefiting greatly in this war? And do you think people like Tulsi and others in the administration would have something to do with that?
It's really complicated when it comes to that, because although I do think it benefits, like, I think the ultimate beneficiary is China on the global stage of everything Trump does, whether it's the tariff, trade war stuff, whether it's the wars and foreign policy. Like China has been having global economic forums while Trump has been bombing countries and like pissing himself on TV. So like, it's hard to say. That I actually need to think about that more, because you have like Tucker Carlson taking like the anti-war perspective in the Republican Party, but then people accuse him of working more for Iran and Qatar, you know, but he also does Russian propaganda. He said, like Tucker said, Moscow is more beautiful than any city in America. It's freaking gross as an American to say that and be allowed back in the country, which I am kind of nationalistic on that basis. But yeah, I need to think about that more and where the interests are, because everyone, I mean, everything you see right now is a psyop on the internet. It's really crazy.
So finding points of agreement, everything is a psyop on the internet, and Tucker Carlson has lost his fucking mind. So like those are things that we're going to agree on. I'm really surprised by the statement that China is the big winner in all of this. Like to me, like I look at Trump's foreign policy, and what I see is him systematically attempting, you know, and you could question whether or not it's working, but certainly the attempt is to dismantle Chinese influence within our sphere of influence. Like Venezuela and Iran combined to be, I forgot the exact percentage. Iran is like 35% of China's oil, and Venezuela is like another big chunk. China was investing in Venezuela to get the technology to take their dirty crude and refine it to create a source of oil, because it's the largest proven reserve in the world. They were installing their military technology in China to prevent the U.S. from striking. That's why they were giving them air defense. Russia started building its own drones recently, but Iran was building the drones for Russia that it was using against Ukraine for big chunks of the war between Russia and Ukraine. Like Iran is a ally, and in terms of geopolitics, a proxy player for Russia and China, just as Venezuela was, just as Cuba is for China. So, you know, America knocking down the allies of our enemy, it's difficult to call that the big winner when we take out their vassal states.
Yeah, in addition to that, like, okay, Russia may small time benefit from the oil, right? That right now, but like to say China is winning is just massively wrong, right? Like, first, let's look at Venezuela. What were we hearing? Oh, they had the vaunted Chinese air radars, and we embarrassed the shit out. We had the top of the line thing they were selling, not the top tier thing that they have, but the top thing that they're selling abroad. They had them. We dog walked them. Iran, they've got this shit in there right now. They have all this Chinese stuff. We're dog walking them. Not only is this happening, China has a rumored spy ship off the coast feeding them intel about what we're doing. And we're still beating that pussy like it owes us money. And so you're sitting there going to tell me, oh, hey, oh, this is good for China. China's getting their oil cut off. Their energy crisis is going to be massive. Their top tier systems that they're selling are being embarrassed over and over and over again. That's going to hurt their sales abroad military wise. Yeah, this is all L's for China. The only countries that are benefiting are Russia, maybe tangentially from the oil, but even then, Ukraine is benefiting because now they don't have the access to the tech that Iran was giving them. They don't have all the Iranian helpers that are sitting over there. Syria was an ally of Russia. They're no longer gone. Assad fled to fucking Russia, and they're using his troops that he brought with him as just cannon fodder to go do the minefields kind of thing, just as they're using North Korean troops to run and just get gunned down. I don't even know if there's any left of the 20,000 that went with him. And then you're going to sit here and talk about China winning. It's just asinine and has no basis in reality. India's pulling further and further away from sync, and that's why we're not calling it BRICS anymore, because India's going, oh, buddy, y'all keep taking massive fucking L's, and why would we want to buy your shit? In fact, they started to develop domestically and ally with our allies like the Philippines and sell shit over there, because the rumor is Indian tech is now better than Chinese tech after these ass whippings. So what you're saying is just not grounded in reality. Can you tell me one instance of Chinese technology stopping an American aircraft right now? I'll wait. There is none.
So so dramatic. So when I talk about China with like, I know. When I talk about China for economic purposes, so Canada, for example, and Europe, Canada was a very anti-China country. Canada and Europe have signed historic deals with China, economic deals that did not exist in the past 50 years. And China and Canada meeting was actually a pretty big deal for both countries because they did not have good relations whatsoever. But our allies feel forced to go to China more for these, modern monetary financial transactions for these trade deals. And now when it comes to Venezuela, I don't think China really cares about Venezuela that much. When we kill USAID, we kill our influence in Africa as well. China makes more inroads there. We killed the Voice of America, our foreign policy propaganda arm, which is making it harder for us to do what we're doing in Iran right now because we don't have as many independent journalists that can reach inside of Iran and Russia and other countries like that. And then for the military right now, I mean, Iran's main play is they're making the toll that's being paid for the Strait of Hormuz be paid in yuan, be paid in the Chinese currency. So, that's a big push that they're having. All these BRICS countries are really pushing away from the American dollar. I would say that Trump's adaptation or adoption of cryptocurrency at large is also very destabilizing for our currency and really helps Russia and China and the propensity for corruption across the board. I don't think there's any country doing amazing on the global stage right now, to be fair. So I'm not going to say like China. I know there's some internal conflict. They just had to oust the military leader. So there's some, issues in every country. But when it comes to Trump's actions with foreign policy, what I see is Trump's trade deals and tariffs self-embargoed America with the global stage. Self-embargoed America. We told Canada, you're assholes, we hate you. Europe, you're assholes, we hate you. Africa, you're shithole, depraved, shithole place. We're going to kill all of our programs to help you out. Who cares about, we hate Somalis and, we hate all these minorities. We hate Europe. We hate everybody. And they hear that. And, we have people for the U.S. government saying all Muslims should be dead, like U.S. senators and stuff. That's bad for our propaganda. I just think that, in terms of although on every stage, there's not one stage I think Trump helps with China, unless if you think that the world is going to be in like an 1800s, battle for, hegemony for our part of North America. So like Trump with Cuba and Venezuela, unless if you think that's the play that we're going to have like the different, sectors of power. I mean,
currently it says that since the war started, Russia's doubled their earnings in oil, that they've made over $5 billion more than they were making before. The United States loosened sanctions on Russia as well, giving them more oil. In a lot of ways, they've greatly benefited during this war. So even though generally we would think of them as somewhat of an ally to Iran, they seem to be making out pretty well.
The danger with the ranty format is that you can say a lot of things and then I have to go back and correct stuff that was said at the very beginning. The idea that China doesn't care about Venezuela, which Joel said earlier, is like insane. It's insane. Like China was buying like 80 to 90% of the oil that Venezuela was exporting. China was investing billions of dollars into Venezuela. Like Venezuela was China's closest proxy and ally within our hemisphere. Like that was the forefront of communism within our hemisphere. That in Cuba, but unlike Cuba, Venezuela had upside because if they could ever stop mismanaging their own resources, which by the way we built for them and they stole from us and it just expropriated, they have the largest proven oil reserve in the world.
So can I clarify one thing about my argument? I would just say that China, not that they don't care at all, but if it comes, to would China rather have these brand new deals with Europe and Canada and expanded influence in Africa, or would they rather Venezuela be stable, which they still have, it has not been hindered that much. I'm just saying they would take the trade-off.
I mean, what I'm saying is that it helps. It's helpful if you want to build a case to like just make sure that you're getting the facts right on stuff like this, because they care a great deal about that. And the reason that they care a great deal about that is that part of China's effort to undermine the US has been to replace not our access to oil, but the currency that oil is traded in. Most of the time in the world right now, currency is traded in dollars, which is the petrodollar. This is a huge deal for America. This is why, even though we have this crippling debt, it hasn't totally tanked our economy yet, because we can issue debt at lower rates because countries are always looking to buy American treasuries because they have all these dollars lying around from their oil trades. And if they convert it back to another currency, they lose a lot of money. So they're willing to buy American debt at a lower interest rate than they would otherwise. This is a huge part of what keeps our economy afloat. China's geopolitical strategy was to stop that and turn it into what's called the Petro-Yuan, where more and more countries are trading in Chinese currency rather than in American currency. And this is what the BRICS alliance was partially about, where you had Venezuela, Iran, China coming up with a way to supplant America on the global stage, which would have benefits to the Chinese economy and severe detriment to the American economy. So yeah, I mean, I think this is worth protecting. And yes, it is a big deal that we have been protecting it. In terms of like China having trade deals with Canada and having trade deals with Europe, I don't know. I mean, maybe I know we pissed Canada off. I would agree with you. We certainly did that. I don't know whether or not our actions really precipitated that. Like these countries have their own relationships and their own frosty reasons. Like I think if I remember correctly, Canada had some executive that was like apprehended in China. Like there was some like human rights issue that they were really upset about in like the 2015, 2018 range, somewhere around there. I don't know how they moved past that. But, ultimately, I think that America does need to protect its interests, and we have to do that. And ultimately, we will. And it does not also look like China's doing great economically right now. I mean, who knows? Of all the countries in the world, I probably trust their self-report on data the least. But there's been a real estate crisis. There's rumors that they have a population issue. So who knows? We'll see how that plays out.
We did get a super chat or a tip on Stream Elements from Aryan. Appreciate it. It came in 10 minutes ago. He said, this is for Jolah. Don't you think the Iranian regime is an easier target because it's an actual state with proper military. It's unlike fighting a non-state actor hiding behind civilian infrastructure.
Well, does the American government view them as a legitimate? Don't they view the IRC as terrorists? I'm trying to think of how America views them. Like, do they have a legitimate structure in America's eyes right now?
That's not really the question. That's kind of what That's kind of what I was saying
Yeah.
earlier, right? About ISIS and shit. Like, yeah, ISIS is a different kind of threat. Yeah, they hide behind people. They're asymmetrical. Iran is asymmetrical with Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis. But hey, this is the thing. There's asymmetrical threats. Yeah, they're bad and they're a different kind of danger, but they're a lower tier threat. You're not going to have a terrorist group develop nukes. So in one ways, yes, they are an easier enemy to fight. And that's part of the reason why we're taking out Iran instead of going after the little groups. We take out the head. They can't fund these people. They can't give out. And then they might devolve into these little terror groups. And those might be harder to fight per se or dig out. But yes, in the sense that it's an actual military and an actual state where they have logistics that are sit there in place. Not that terrorist groups don't have that, but they have more hard points. That is true in this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was hitting at earlier.
Yeah, and honestly, they are the largest funder of global terrorism, flat stop. So, like this, if you were very serious about stopping global terrorism, this would be the way to do it.
One big advantage they have is, so Iraq did not have the ability to tank the global economy as much as Iran does if they truly were able to hold on to what they currently have. And that's why I think it's really hard, because Trump's not going to take a loss on this. There's a chance he goes deeper because he doesn't want to take a loss. And I don't even know what like a deal would look like. So if America does recommit in Iran, if we keep on, the trend has been escalation on both sides over and over and over again. Israel just said they're going to escalate, and Iran announced again they're going to escalate. Every day it's more escalation. So if we're going to keep on playing this game of chicken, it has the potential to launch us into a global recession. So there's a lot of questions to be answered there. It's a different type of warfare from, this versus the small proxy groups or terrorist groups. I mean, it's different kinds. It's easier to target because you know what points you want to hit, but also it's a much more dangerous and difficult enemy. It depends what you mean by difficult too. Do you mean American lives lost? Do you mean economic harm? Like what are we really talking about? Because going after the individual groups are probably more American lives lost, or if we go on the ground, it's and a lot's yet to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's some stuff in there I probably agree with. I think that like right now we're in the we say we're going to escalate. They say they're going to escalate. Israel says they're going to escalate. Like we're in that phase. I think the only way that stops and like real negotiations happen is when the actual leverage hits an inflection point. Like when, for example, Iran stops running out of weapons. Like that would be a moment when it happens, when we've crippled their capacity to an extent that they just cannot do something anymore. Maybe not completely. Maybe the Strait of Hormuz is still closed, but they can no longer realistically launch weapons at Israel, and we know it because they stopped, because they've been launching them nonstop. But eventually, they are slowing down. They're down like, I forgot the exact figure. I've seen 70 and I've seen 90% since the first couple days of the war in terms of like the frequency with which Iran is sending out ballistic attacks at its neighbors. So ultimately, I think, they'll like us when we win is what's going to happen here. Like we need to actually cripple at least enough of their capacity that it creates a leverage point for negotiation. And until then, it's going to be bluster on both sides.
Okay, well, we're at 2.5 hours now, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'll let you guys shout your channels out again one more time, and we'll go the opposite direction. So go ahead, Admiral Gibbs.
Hey, yeah, I'm Admiral Gibbs. You can find me everywhere on as Admiral Gibbs. We've been doing a big push for YouTube and Twitch lately, so check me out there. I will be on TikTok soon, but hey, check us out on all these platforms. We're having a generational run. I think we're about to go do another panel after this and yell at some people about a force doctrine or some other gay shit. Who knows? It's going to be fun. It'll be good times. Thanks for having me. I apologize for being too big of a Giga Chad and making Connor have a big case of Poseidon. And thank you, Jolah, for staying and fighting it out against two people. I know it's never fun to be outnumbered and have to be coming at it from both sides unless you're getting the fucking Eiffel Tower. So, hey, I don't want to do that. Thank you. But appreciate it. And for everybody here, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for joining, Jolah. Go ahead. So.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was a very unenjoyable experience, and I hate myself now. Jolah Politics on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I have a bunch of dead social media accounts. I'm going to give up on all of them after this because I got destroyed by so many high intellectual arguments today. And I'll never forgive Tom for inviting me.
Thank you, good sir. Thank you for coming, Ryan.
Nice. Well, Jolah, by the way, I echo Gibbs here. It's never fun to have your debate partner drop out and then get an outnumbered panel. And beyond that, I appreciate the fact that, like, I think there was some tone matching. We started off feisty. We ended a bit more calm. I appreciate that. So I'm Ryan Mullally. I'm an attorney. I talk about American politics, American law, American philosophy. My channel's Natural Law with Ryan Mullally, and we are on the rise. It's been growing. Viewership is up. Things are going well. Come by the channel if you want to hang out. We have a great community. And if you hate me and you want to yell at me, come by the channel and yell at me. That's fun too. Anyway, Tom, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, appreciate you coming. Thanks everybody for showing up. I'm Tom Fuller's show. We do a bunch of debates. We're trying to do these once a week here and there, but haven't been as consistent as we want to be. But we're getting there, trying to find a platform that actually works. So I guess this one wasn't so bad today. I'll have to figure out how to use Restream a little bit better and get get better at the production on here. But outside of that, appreciate everybody coming. And yeah, you guys come check me out. TomFulleryShow.com on Tom Fullery Show on YouTube, not TomFulleryShow.com. But yeah, YouTube.com/Tom Fullery Show. If you want to search it on YouTube, it is Tom Space Fullery Show, Fullery Space Show. So yeah, that's where you can find me. Thanks everybody for coming. And I'll be starting another stream in just a minute. So if you guys are in my chat, hang out for a minute and we'll raid you over to another chat in just a minute. Thanks, guys.
Good seeing you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Later.